Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, to the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship here at Sydney Dragway. We're about to get underway with some qualifying with the Pro Mods. Joining me in commentary is Stu McCarthy. My name's Stephen Bush. Welcome to Sydney Dragway here this morning.
You're up and about, Bushy. Good to see. Day 2. It's on. Blue skies. Drag racing.
Yes.
No more of that stuff that's delayed us this morning. I'm up and about. I know you are because you're out of your seat. This is going to be a huge day of drag racing here with freestyle motocross, burnouts, drifting, you name it, it's happening.
And even fireworks to close the night off. But we're about to see two of the fastest Pro Mod cars that we have here in Sydney run down the quarter mile here at Sydney Dragway. Zoran Gajic in the airflow lane taking on Rob Campese in the rocket lane. Twin turbo Hemi on board for Zoran Gajic. A slightly bigger Hemi on board for Rob Campese, 514 cubic inches under the bonnet.
Now, Bushy, for people that are here or watching on the live stream that we're not too far away from getting up and going, or if it already is going, so good morning to people sitting at home. I'm the rookie here, come from dirt racing, here with drag racing. Is it a whole lot tougher for these first two cars, first two passes of the day on the racetrack, freshly prepared racetrack? Is it harder? Is it easier? What's?
I think the tune-up in the car would be a little bit different if they were to come out an hour or so later. Of course, that track has just been fully prepped. We've sprayed it. It would be very, very tacky right now. So what the racers are probably looking for is to not dead hook the tyre because it'll go into tyre shake. They actually want to get a little bit of slip off the start line. These two cars in front of us here, of course, Pro Mod basically just has two very simple rules. Is that the car has to be V8 powered and some form of forced induction. Generally, most cars running turbocharging or mechanical supercharging, and these two cars on the start line will have the advantage of being able to control boost and how that power is delivered to the racetrack. We'll soon find out in probably about 20 seconds time how these two races will get down the freshly prepped racing surface. Both races into pre-stage. We hear the RPMs build, the boost building, bumping in together. Both cars leaving well. A little bit of a move around at half track, side by side. 589 with a 4 for Zoran Gajic, 255 mile an hour, and a 575 with a 1, a 258 mile an hour there for Campese. He was a little bit slower off the start line, but started to make that time up as he went down. 986 to the 60-foot mark there, so that's the first timing block that we can see just past the Christmas tree. So from the start line to that point, he's got there in just under a second, 0.986 of a second.
So to the naked eye, forgetting about times and how close that is, you could see how close it was on the racetrack and when they got down to the finish line. And that's really cool when you get to see that opening pass of day number 2 off like that.
Yes,
nothing better.
Awesome start to the day for those two teams. They would be absolutely wrapped. Of course, Pro Mod cars running on a 585 index. So all the competitors in this category want to run as close to as possible a 585. They can run under it, but they want to run as close to as possible to a 585. Now, of course, we can see Pete Lovering completing his burnout there in the E1 Pool Certifier 55 Chevy. In beside, completing his burnout, it's Greg Sacharidis. This car, one of the fastest door cars in the world, running the Pro 481X. Of course, the Proline built engine out of the US. Massive raft of sponsors on board for this car. The ICE Group, C&V Performance, Pro Trans, Power Plus Race Fuels, Proline USA, Hoosier Tyres, M&M Transmissions, SCF Industries, sorry.
So you're right, mate. So looking at both the cars, like I visually look, I go old school.
Yes.
How cool does
Yes.
the Lovering's car in the Rocket Lane look? The big old 55 Chev body on it.
Well, two big differences here. We can see that the front of the Sacharidis Mustang is very much slipperier through the air. The big advantage he has as well is there's no supercharger sticking up in that airflow either. So typically these cars will run a better mile an hour simply because they don't have the drag of the supercharger sticking up past the roofline. Let's see what Sacharidis can do. Car moving around, Lovering pedaling it off the start line. Sacharidis straight down the centre of the lane, 591 with a 6, 249 mile an hour. Didn't quite look that fast, but 591 with a 6, 249 mile an hour. He went 997 to the 60-foot mark. Nice clean pass there for Sacharidis. So at half track, at 200 metres from the start line, he was doing just under 200 mile an hour.
Ridiculous.
So it's nearly 320 kilometres an hour at within 200 metres of the start line. Next up, we're going to have another twin turbo versus supercharged battle. This one is Jeremy Callahan in the Tyre Plus Chevy Camaro, taking on Joseph Marina from Mulgoa in the 63 Chevy Corvette. Running for Pro Signs and Marina Brothers Racing. Very pretty car, this window Corvette. Oh, Callahan getting way out of shape in the burnout. We can see those two burnout marks were very much not straight. He was going lock to lock.
And it started way back here in the
Yes.
in the wet box as well. Like he's done the full snake the whole way down to where he stopped doing the burnout.
I was actually a little bit concerned whether he was going to bring it back from one of those. We could see pretty much the whole side of the car from the commentary box because we're sitting directly behind the racers. Callahan in this very, very, very nicely presented Chevy Camaro, one of my favourite cars in the category.
So does Callahan in the aeroflow lane we're talking about, is he worried about how that car's going to react now because what it's done in that burnout situation or not?
I would have a feeling that he's just come out of the water, perhaps. Maybe didn't come far enough out of the water before he started his burnout, but we'll soon see how the car reacts. I mean, these drivers have very, very good reactions to all sorts of things that go on in the car because not two passes are the same.
Dove. I do love the look of Marina's 63 Chev Corvette.
It's that blue stands out very nicely.
It's a
on the
beautiful
racetrack,
blue, yeah. A bit like my shirt we've got on.
Yes,
it's that blue.
Not too far
Not
different.
too far off at all.
So Callahan, he was into the fives, I think, on his first or second full power pass in this car. One of the prettiest Pro Mod cars out there. Let's see what he can do down the aeroflow lane here at Sydney Dragway. We're in the first round of qualifying for Pro Mod. Just waiting on Callahan to move in. Marina's up on the two-step. He's ready to go. Bit of tyre shake there for Marina. Here comes Callahan. Marina moving around a little bit at the bottom end.
Wow.
And the Corvette got there. 600 with a 2. 240.12 mile an hour. And a 591 with a 6 at 250 there for Callahan. So that's, I think, two cars in the 591s. So a very good showing so far from the Pro Mod racers. I think that concludes the first round of qualifying for Pro Mod. We're going to move into Super Sedan, Stu, and on track now we have Rob Cartham in the XE Falcon taking on Naomi Lightowler in the Pontiac Firebird. Lightowler running for BNS Waterproofing, Penrite Oil, Scorpion Racewear, West End Performance, Craig's Automatics. Cartham running for Speed Pro, RK Carpentry, and Higgins Raceheads. 1:04 reaction time for the Green Falcon, 0.75 on the tree for the Pontiac. Good side-by-side race. Cartham gets there first with a 9.02 with a 2, 151 mile an hour. Now, you hear us commentators talking about a reaction time, Stu.
Yes.
And that is a measure of how fast the drivers react to the green light. A 000 reaction time means that driver left the start line at exactly the same time that green light came on.
And that's what you're aiming for every time.
100%. That's what we're aiming for.
Because that can determine you winning or losing.
Correct. It makes no difference to the ET or the elapsed time that the car runs down the quarter mile. But come racing, next time these races are out, that reaction time could win or lose the race.
Yep. Oh, red light in the rocket lane for Jason Field.
So 0.99 red, which means he left pretty much a tenth of a second too early. Sean Maher in the Holden Tirana, they got away with an 0.29 reaction time, runs through for a 9.24 with a 143 mile an hour.
You know what I'm excited about, Bushy, right now is these, what have we seen? Probably about 10 passes so far today. And the racing we've seen has been spot on.
Yes.
This is what we're going to see all day and into tonight.
Exactly right. And of course, these guys and girls are just getting warmed up. Of
Correct.
Course, they've got in Super Sedan, of course, they're going to have a number of rounds of racing in front of them before they can be crowned the winner or runner-up. On track now, we've got Joe Zammit in the VL Commodore taking on Dave Gruber in the Holden Tirana. The Tirana of Gruber will get there first, 9.351 at 141 miles an hour, and a 10.18 with a 4 at 130 there for Zammit in the VL.
Mark Busher in the MB Performance Holden 1-tonner in the Aeroflow lane, and Graham Blackman in the Queanbeyan Engine Service Ford Cortina in the Rocket lane. There is something about a 1-tonner.
Well, that's right. I mean, they're fairly popular in all sorts of motorsport across drag racing, burnouts, etc., etc.
Or just cruising down the road.
Yeah. I think there's something uniquely Australian about it, isn't there? You know, this one running a fairly decent tyre in the back. It saw a purge of nitrous coming up to the start line. Currently our number one qualifier, 0.14 on the tree. Yes, very true, Stu. Nice reaction time for Busher there. He runs through for 8.76 with a 3 at 148 mile an hour, and Graham Blackman a 10.94 with a 9 at 121.
So it's put him to the top of the table. Busher stays number one qualifier. So Nathan Watt out there in the Holden VL Commodore in the Aeroflow lane, and Nathan Cowie from Seven Hills in the Suzuki Mighty Boy. How often do you get to say that, a Suzuki Mighty with a 350 Chev?
Yeah, no, there's...
Come on, are you serious?
There's probably only one. There'd be one in Australia, I reckon, with a 350 Chev in it. I don't know where he quite sits because the cab hasn't been extended. There wouldn't be a lot of room in that car. Especially considering I think they had a little 3-cylinder motor in them.
And look at his reaction time, 007.
Yeah, nice light from both races actually. Watt will get there first, 9.45 with a 6 at 143, and the Mighty Boy an 11.73 with a 2 at 77 mile an hour.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he shut it down.
Yeah, he
might have problems.
He had an issue yesterday with his qualifying shot that he did yesterday as well. So here we go. We're talking about the 1-tonners being iconically Australian.
Just before you do, how cool is it on the return road?
Oh, gorgeous. Those
how good does that look?
The matching tow cars to the race car.
That is cool, the Chevs. But back onto the racetrack, the 1-tonners, as Bushy was saying, Palumbo in the Aeroflow and Ferrolo in the Rocket. I'm presuming that's how you say it. I hope I've said it right.
Close. Pat Friolo from Austral. Both races not too far from Sydney Dragway. Palumbo is out in front, that car, nitrous assisted, and he's going to take the stripe here, 9.15 with a 2, 144.94 mile an hour, and Pat Friolo a 10.17 with an 8 at 129.
So Palumbo moves up to third. Michael Little out here in the Rocket lane for M&T Little Plumbing. Forbes in the Holden LJ Tirana with a 434 Chev underneath it from Forbes. Beautiful part of the country, New South Wales, Forbes.
A couple of members from the Little family racing here this weekend at Sydney Dragway, and they are always on the entry list. It's very well sorted. Tirana runs through for a 9.38 with a 6 at 141 through the finish line. I think that concludes Super Sedan qualifying. Stu, we're going to move into Super Gas, I think is the next one up.
So they might have changed that around what we had on the run sheet. But that's all right. I'll follow your lead, Bushy. You know what you're talking about.
So John Summeranch in the Mark 1 Cortina, running for Summeranch Race Cars. Little 302 on board this car, manually shifted. He's taking on Tony Polito in the Motorsports Parts and Services Ford Pro. This car, a ex-Australian championship winning car in Pro Stock Eliminator many years ago.
Oh, how good does that mighty boy look coming down the return road? Oh, I'm dead set. When I'm not on the mic, I'm going down to the pits and taking a photo of that. That's just something.
It's something very, very different, isn't it? The you know, something different to all the cars here this weekend. Of course, Super Gas Eliminator, they're running a fixed index, 990. All these cars want to run as close to as possible to a 990. 986 with a 153 mile an hour for Polito, a little bit too quick, and also a little bit too quick for Summeranch, 981 with a 3 there. Of course, Summeranch running a manually shifted car. A lot of these cars, if they're automatic transmission, they can use a throttle stop, which means the car will launch off the start line and then almost look like it falters or it stalls, and then it'll accelerate again. What that's doing is basically chewing up time, because the car itself can actually go a lot quicker than the 990 time shown on the readout board. But by doing that, what it will mean is it will run a lot higher mile an hour than what a car flat out would run a 990 at.
Right.
So there's a couple of different rules in this category that take effect when they're racing. They can't deep stage, which means they can't bring the take the top white light off. We can see there both those cars running that throttle stop. Side by side, as you'd expect, a 994 with a 1 at 152 there for Roy Romeo in the Rocket Lane, and a 10 a 10 147 mile an hour there for Vince Panetta in the Holden Tirana.
So great to have everybody here for day 2 of the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship. Round number 1 of this brand new series. Top fuel cars will be out a little bit later on. Super Gas on track at the moment. Tough day here yesterday.
Yes, it was a little bit tricky. We did get a little bit of racing in, but certainly not as much as we would have liked to have. You see Colin Griffin there stretching the legs with that Celica. He'll run through for a 991 with a 0. 991 with a 0, which means he was 100th of a second faster, slower than what he needed to be. That's probably going to put him in good stead for qualifying for Super Gas. We're now going to move into Modified Eliminator, Stewart. This is the category dial your own, so the racers, when they're racing, they can pick their own handicap time. The class is made up of rear engine dragsters, front engine dragsters, altereds, even some hot rods choose to run in this category if they're fast enough. On track now, we've got Kenny Stewart running for Fuchs Lubricants, all the way up from Victoria, as is Shane Wind in the Rocket Lane. He's running for Get M Performance out of the USA.
So track officials just talking with other track officials, I think, deep down at the end of the circuit. Bushy, would you, the 2 cars, dragsters that are down here on the start line at the moment, to me they look like old school drags. Is that one way of describing them or not?
No, not really. These are rear engine dragsters, so probably from the late 70s, most racers went to the rear engine dragster, and the main reason for doing that was it was a lot safer. You'll see, I know there's at least 2 front engine cars in the pits that I've walked past this morning, making my way up to the commentary box, where the engine and everything is actually in front of the driver.
Yes.
Now, keep in mind, back in the 60s and 70s, when they were running top fuel, they were still running nitromethane in it, and if there was anything goes wrong with those the engine, the supercharger, whatever, it was right in the driver's face. So obviously moving to a rear engine car, if the engine lets go, all the flame and debris is out the back.
Yep.
So certainly a fair bit safer is the rear engine drag. So probably a little bit better with weight transfer and all that sort of stuff too. 002 green to a 002 red. Wind on the red side, but Stewart will get there first. 746 with a 177 mile an hour through the finish line, and a 772 with a 3 there for Shane Wind.
You wouldn't see that very often.
No,
no. The same exact time, but on the either side of the light, so to speak. And obviously here's a perfect example of what we were talking about with the previous two cars. Rear engine, you've got one with the rear engine and then one with the front engine.
That's
in
correct.
With Alan White in the rocket lane.
So Alan White's in what we call an altered, because it's a shorter wheelbase, so they've called it a altered. The T-bucket style, which is what he's running, the 23T, is probably one of the more popular body styles for an altered. There's another one, a Bantam body, which is an Austin. But I think that's one of the beauties of modified Eliminator, is there's a little bit more flexibility with body style and the type of car you can run. There's basically, there are rules, of course, but there are minimum times in which the car has to be able to run. We occasionally see full-bodied hot rods running in this category as well. So on track now, we've got Corey Dyson, another racer up from Victoria, running for Mobil 1 Oils. Corey running a 400 cube Chevy power plant in the dragster, taking on former Australian champion Alan White in the T-bucket. 006 on the tree for White in the T-bucket. He had a good look at the concrete wall on the western side of his lane. Dyson out in front, 756 with an 8, 174 mile an hour through the finish line, and an 861 with a 7, 149 there for Alan White. So Dyson qualifies into number 4.
So in between runs, are they doing big changes to their cars or their engines, or what? They're just double checking?
No, generally just double checking things. The modified Eliminator is a very, very competitive category to be in. Sometimes they're not given a lot of time for turnaround, so the car has to be able to run laps effectively. Most of them still run radiators and all that sort of stuff, so they can actually perform several runs in a short period of time. Of course, it depends how fast you go.
Yep.
You know, sometimes someone will come out with a small block, might be an X-Pro stock motor or something like that. It's not ideal that they're going to want to turn around very quickly, and they'll have more in between round maintenance, but majority of the cars, relatively maintenance-free.
Daniel Flack out there in the Aeroflow lane, and Fiona Crisp in the Rocket.
Can't say I've seen Fiona Crisp for a little while here at Sydney Dragway. Very good racer, as is Daniel Flack.
Oh, Crisp Rev Lights with a 001.
Yep, so she left 1,000th of a second too soon, bringing that red light on. She's going to take the win here, of course, qualifying for Timmy Hot Rod Supplies Modified Eliminator. 785 with a 3, 169 mile an hour there, and Daniel Flack an 837 in the altered. Next pairing up, we've got Craig Baker from Victoria in the rear engine dragster, running for Paul Rogers Performance Transmissions, and Jess Turner in this very, very sharp Spitzer dragster, 407 cubes of Chevy, nitrous assistance. This car, one of the fastest rear engine dragsters in Modified Eliminator, has run into the 6s, I think, at high 190 mile an hour.
That's insane.
It's pretty quick out of a small block Chevy, but I think the nitrous, the chemical supercharging, certainly aids in that performance. A lot of the racers running the trusty carburetor or EFI on their cars, but Jess wanting a little bit more performance. Jess's car leaving nice and flat there. 060 reaction time. We have seen it carry the front wheels quite substantially. 695 with a 4, 192 mile an hour there.
You almost called that,
yeah,
Bushy.
I did, Nelly. Craig Baker in the other lane, a 764 with a 2, 177 mile an hour through the finish line.
Great to see blue skies above us right now, Bushy. A few clouds
Yes.
still around us, but there is blue sky above us. Let's hope it stays that way for the rest of today, and we just make this a awesome round one of the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship. I'll get that out correctly. Just so good to have Burson's Auto Parts on board for this event here, round one.
Next Perry up, we've got a T-bucket altered of Derek Wills from Victoria, taking on a unknown racer in the rear engine dragster. Wills running for Viper safety and training.
Quick question, Bushy. Just
Yes,
looking at the Burson Auto Parts flags right on the start-finish line. We can see them moving around. They're blowing this way towards the start line, so the cars are going against the...
Yep.
Does that make an effect on the way they set up cars? Look, it's not that blowy, but they're moving around.
A headwind is certainly better than a crosswind. I think the cars may move around a little bit, but those cars with a wing would certainly be more planted, I think, with the headwind. The trickiest bit sometimes is pulling the parachute at the other end to slow the car down. And we see that rear-engine dragster in the aeroflow lane run a 7.21 with a 186 mile an hour. And a 7.79 there for Derek Wills in the altered. Okay, we talked about a front-engine dragster. Here's a pair of them.
So I have a quick question, Bushy. Looking at both these cars,
Yep.
obviously there's no weight on the front end where the axle, where the wheels are. Do they put weights or do they carry stuff there to be able to try and keep those wheels down?
Yeah, a lot of the cars run their fuel tank right over the front end. But
so
also,
there's no added lead or anything like that?
Depends on the car. They may tune a little bit for that. But both these cars, of course, running a wheelie bar, which will keep the front end from coming up too far. Of course, the old front engine drags are sometimes not known for running dead straight. They do tend to move around a little bit off the start line.
This pair just sounds cool and looks cool. Here at Sydney Dragway for round number one of the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship. Davies and Carlton on the racetrack, both in stage.
062 on the tree for Peter Carlton in the white car. Davies out in front with an 031 light. He's going to take the stripe at the bottom end, 827 with a 9, 160 mile an hour through the finish line, and an 898 with a 6 at 146 mile an hour there for Peter Carlton. Now, if this is your first time here at Sydney Dragway, your general admission ticket, Stu, does get you into the pits, so you can walk down and talk to all the drivers, check out the cars nice and close, see them with the bonnets off and all that sort of stuff. Ask the drivers, don't be scared to ask the drivers some questions. Check out some of the driving compartments of these cars too, if you can. There's not a hell of a lot of room in a lot of them.
No, certainly isn't. Never is in a race car.
No.
And which isn't a bad thing either once you're strapped in with your 7-point harness.
Yep,
or in some cases 5.
They're built for one thing only, and that's to go fast, not necessary driver comfort.
Go straight, go fast, and be safe.
Exactly. Jason Van der Linde on the start line now. He's in the Bantam Altered, running for Sanford Valley Realty. 540 cubes of big block Chev on board this car. 044 reaction time. Running dead straight down the aeroflow lane here. Shoots out, nice clean run for the team. 768 at 176 mile an hour. I'm not going to try and talk over Dave Whitmore in his top sportsman blown Chevy Nova. We're, of course, moving into top sportsman, Stu. This is a category for our fast full-body sedans. Similar to Super Sedan, which we saw run earlier. These cars just a little bit faster. Of course, Dave Whitmore from Dora Creek, running for Grant's Performance. Burson's Garage, he's our number 4 qualifier so far, taking on Paul Partridge in the Ford Mustang, running for Coating King and BK Race Engines. Paul, the former Australian champion in Super Sedan.
So from our vantage point, Bushy, you can really see from when I asked that question, when the first 2 cars went down, you can see how much this track is now starting to form for these cars to be able to go down.
Yeah, there's certainly a very definite groove out to the 330-foot mark, which is the second box we can see from the start line. Nice build-up launch there for Dave Whitmore in the Nova. Looks like Partridge is going to get on around him though, and he does. Goes 7.96 with a 2. 172 mile an hour through the finish line, and an 810, 168 mile an hour for Whitmore. So Partridge, our number 1 qualifier at the moment.
So we're going to have a change in commentary. Bushy, been a pleasure working with Bushy. Absolute professional. Good to see him get up and about. He was out of his seat for the first pass of the day. That told me that if Bushy's excited, God help us with Rusty when he gets on the mic. Rusty, good morning.
I'm excited. How's that? It's Saturday, it's race day. I've been waiting for this for a long, long time. I can tell you, after the stop-start yesterday, it was kind of a little bit of a tease yesterday, wasn't it? We kind of got a little bit of a taste, but not quite the full show. Well, let me tell you, you're going to get the full show today. We have got top sportsman on the racetrack, Matt Clark, in that very nice little VL Calais, taking on Thomas Leake in what is one of my favourite cars in this whole top sportsman field, the Pontiac Grand Am down there, the purple car. Absolutely gorgeous looking car.
That'll do me.
Don't even go there. Let's concentrate on the racing. Both cars in. Decent reaction times both sides. 0.33 for Leake, 0.95 for Matt Clark. Thomas Leake will leg it on through. This is one of the quicker cars in the top sportsman field with a 7.92. Nice and consistent compared to his 7.91 from yesterday. 8.71 up on the boards for Matt Clark. So slight improvement for Matt Clark. Not quite an improvement for Thomas Leake, but either way, both solidly in the field. Next up, Heracles Kazantzidis, also known as Herc. He's taking on Jeffrey Sargent.
Why?
Hercules.
Right, hang on, just asking.
That's the nickname.
So let me guess. He's called Sarge.
Yes,
yeah.
Jeffrey Sargent, exactly right. Sargent's Roofing Chevy Camaro, very nicely presented nitrous-assisted car, that one. And Heracles Kazantzidis, the V and Commodore, been racing for a very, very long time here at Sydney Dragway, the Casmic Interiors car. And again, currently sitting in the number 5 spot, number 3 for Jeffrey Sargent. He's dipped down into the 7-second zone, so 2 pretty quick cars on track here.
Glad to report we're seeing more and more blue skies as we move along.
100%.
That's what we want.
Yep.
Good little crowd starting to roll in as well, which is fantastic. We know it's only going to get bigger. If you're sitting at home watching on the live stream and you live in Sydney, get off your chair and get down here.
Look, I know we do provide a very, very good live stream, but let's be honest, there's nothing like being at the racetrack. You got to get to the racetrack. You got to smell some nitro. You got to smell that burning rubber. It is going to be a killer afternoon, and we've also got obviously the freestyle motocross. We're going to have drifting. We're going to have burnouts later on tonight. We have got the whole kit and caboodle, let me tell you. And it's all here at Sydney Dragway for round 1 of the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship.
What about the fireworks? To finish off the show.
I forgot about fireworks, and we're going to have fire cannons. We're going to have everything.
DJ, you name it, we've got it all happening here.
I thought you were just singing. I thought it was karaoke.
No. If I'm doing karaoke, you're running down the strip.
Don't even go there. Both cars in pre-stage now. Heracles Kazantzidis, the Commodore, Jeffrey Sargent in the Chevy Camaro. A little bit of a double step on the start line for Jeffrey Sargent. No problems whatsoever for Kazantzidis. He'll go across the line, just hazing the tyre a little bit in the 810 at 166 miles per hour. 813, 171 for Jeffrey Sargent. Josh Boscovich lining up in this absolutely gorgeous XA Falcon. I don't think there's too many better body shapes than an XA Falcon. What do you reckon?
Oh, no, 100%. It does look awesome. And
more curves than Stewie McCarthy.
Hey, righto. I'm a middle-aged... Oh, no, I'm not going to say I'm a middle-aged man now. I'm still young.
I was going to say, I think it's a safe
I feel young anyway.
Anyway, he's going to go on a solo pass here. He's young Mr. Boscovich. And I believe this will be the last pass out for Top Sportsman. We're lining up with Supercom, who have slightly changed their race format for the day. They're now going to be running on the all-run format alongside some of our feature categories here today. The thing I love about Josh Boscovich, he does these little dry hops. Just shows how angry this thing is.
So why does he do that?
Because it's fun. But it also looks cool.
So there's no particular... Is there something, a reason why he probably is doing it or not?
It's probably just warming up the tyres, just getting the traction right on there. But the burnout's one part of it. The whole idea is to just make sure that the car's launching right, make sure it feels right, and just give it that little blip, make sure it's under load. Or straight up in the air. I think that might have actually backfired the nitrous. I think there was a little bit of a pop and a bang, and the fact that it's not really motoring on down the racetrack there says to me that there's probably a little bit of something going wrong underneath the bonnet. He actually pulls over to the side of the racetrack, which is the right thing to do. Absolutely, whenever any of our racers have a problem on the racetrack, what you want to do is pull over to the concrete as soon as you can. So if there is any fluid or any liquid coming out, it's not going on the racing surface. It left very aggressively, like the front end was up in the air, but as soon as it got up and as soon as it got under load, it pretty much cut out. So not quite sure what happened.
Quick question before I bail, because I'm out. Matty Cav's going to come in. Are you happy with the way the racetrack's performed so far this morning with what's going on and obviously what's coming ahead for the rest of the day?
Let me tell you, when you've had absolutely nothing down the racetrack, we had rain all yesterday afternoon and all night last night, and the first pair of cars out on the racetrack with 2 Pro Mods that went down with side-by-side 5-second runs at over 250 mile an hour, there is not a thing wrong with that racetrack. It is in A1 shape, and the Sydney Dragway crew have done a sensational job getting that back into shape.
So you're telling me that the top fuel guys,
they're
sitting back,
licking their
lips, rubbing their hands together right now, looking at that. The weather, obviously a lot more blue sky, which puts more temperature down into the racetrack, the sun, all that kind of stuff. They're going to be liking what they're seeing.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing because the cloud cover is actually not a bad thing. It tends to keep the track temp down a little bit, but what you also find is you get more water grains in the air. You tend to get more humidity up there. Anyone who's had anything to do with engines know you can't burn water. The more water grains that you've got in the air, the less horsepower you're going to have. Doesn't tend to worry the supercharged cars and the turbocharged cars as much, but the naturally aspirated cars, like what we're going to see up next, it's really going to hurt them in terms of the horsepower stakes. But that being said, it's time to say goodbye to you, Stu. Thank you very much,
no worries. Thank you, Rusty. Matty Cav.
We're going to welcome Matty Cav to the microphone for the first time this morning, and we're going to be hearing a lot of this gentleman over the next few hours, that is for sure. Matty Cav, welcome back to the hot seat.
Mate, the seat has been made warm this morning. It's good to be here. We're on the mic, and like you say, we've had some fantastic runs already this morning, and the track, it's glued up, it's ready to go, and the crowd is absolutely fantastic here at Sydney. So much entertainment coming tonight. I'm pretty excited actually about today.
I heard that you're actually getting on one of those freestyle motocross bikes yourself.
Mate, I'm going to dinky. He's going to dinky me on the handlebars, I reckon, while we do a backflip.
Legs over?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, fancy that. That's going to be something to see. I'll make sure we've got the ambulance on standby. Adrian Vella, the E-Gas automatic Chevy Cobalt out there, beautifully presented car out of Taylor's Hill in Victoria. Tony O'Connor from Springwood in Queensland driving that XF Falcon. There is something tough about a good-looking XF Falcon out on the racetrack, isn't there?
They've just come around, haven't they? And now you look at the price of these things as they go up, the XFs. They are starting up. They're starting at 20, 30 grand now just for a base model Grandpa spec version. The old taxis, but they're tough. They've just got that real square stance, don't they?
Yeah, now this is qualifying around number 2 for these guys. Now, what you've got to remember is you've got individual classes in the Eliminator here, in this particular bracket. So Tony O'Connor running a modified production automatic, meaning he's running off an index of an 842. Adrian Vella, E-Gas automatic, running off an index of an 892. So when we get to race day, these guys are actually going to have handicap starts. And what you're going to find is you can go under the index. That is the one thing to remember. You can go under the index. The further you go under, the further you're going to be up the qualifying list. Tony O'Connor goes 833 on that 842. That's actually going to bump him up a little bit. It'll leave him in the number 2 qualifying spot, though. 865 for Adrian Vella. That's a big improvement for him. He will bump a long way up the qualifying list with that one.
Yeah, it looks like he's got down the track that time, so be pretty happy about that. Just trying to get a number on the board as we move on to our next one. Looks like Daniel Camilleri is now coming out in the Pontiac Firebird. Now, this is a little bit different, isn't it? RB powered, single overhead cam, but mechanical injection on this one. Not the EFI, obviously sticking in the category for the class.
Yep.
Something a little bit different with the turbo, and they've had some real success with one. Generally a 7.0 car. Ran 7.0 yesterday, went really well in between some precipitation.
And Hugo Di Vincenzo over in the Rocket Industries lane, also known as Hugo. Everyone knows him as Hugo. The Race Glides Australia Pontiac GXP. Now, this is basically a US Pro Stock car with an automatic transmission. That's the easiest way to describe this. 500 cubic inches, but with the automatic transmission in it. So, running off an index of a 712, you would expect to see this car well and truly into the 6-second zone if everything goes well, because we know he's got the horsepower. The national record's a 702 at the moment in this class. fast. So we know he can do those kind of numbers, and it really is a fantastic looking car, this one as well.
Yeah, very gorgeous, streamlined as it goes down, as well as Daniel Camilleri's car as well. He's changed over to the Pontiac Firebird as he's evolved in his racing there, just to get the aerodynamics down. Of course, a much better setup race car compared to having the full-body street-style car. See racing Super Comp at the moment as the team's just getting him in there. We're getting the smoke out of the cabin there for Daniel Camilleri. You can see how much came through in the burnout. Just waiting for them to come through. The team's doing the final adjustments on the wheelie bars there for Hugo. Just making sure we don't want to get those wheels too high up in the air. Want to try and push that back tyre down into the ground. Get as much traction as possible. 500 cubes of naturally aspirated goodness, like you say. Pretty much an automatic version of the USA Pro Stock, the United States. So run the big cube motors over there. Waiting for them to come into stage now. As you can see, the team start to back away from the cars. They'll come back behind their designated area, and here we go. Pre-stage is on. The bulbs are up. Just waiting. Nathan will try and bump this one up in on a bit of boost. There we go. Bumps it in. Time to get underway. 0.88 for Camilleri in the reaction time. Oh, Hugo towards the centre line. Gets off it. Has to square the car up. Camilleri goes through for a 7.22 at 1.88. A little bit off his time. I think he got off that a little bit early there. Hugo, though, with a wild rise. He went towards the centre line there.
That made me really nervous. When you see one of these Pro Stock style cars with very little downforce get way out of the groove like that over near the centre line, 9 times out of 10 what tends to happen is that they will get very, very loose because you've got one tyre that's still in the nice sticky part of the racetrack and you've got the other tyre that's freewheeling. What you tend to find is they will turn on a dime. They'll spin around, and once they get backwards, because they're designed to go forwards, not backwards, you do tend to see some pretty wild rides in those cars. So I got really, really nervous when it was over near the centre line. But that being said, all's okay. The car's still shiny side up. That's the most important thing. And we will move on to the next pair of cars, which looks like we are going to have Dave Roberts with this very, very small cube Chev, but with the twin turbos on it. I think from memory, this was well and truly under 300 cubic inches last time out. I don't have any details on it this time around, but it is very, very small cubes. Designated by the double E dragster automatic class designation. The further you go into the alphabet, generally speaking, the smaller cube engines you'll find. So when it's a double E style engine, you're going to find it is a very small cube engine. Craig Geddes, on the other hand, running the Chevy Cavalier over there, the CSMA class designation. 888 is the class index this time around. Dave Roberts running off a 660, which I've got to be honest, that is a tough index for this car when you consider how small the cubes are.
And taking that into account, though, you can see hasn't had to run the huge turbos there. You'll definitely be able to get the RPM up. The reciprocating mass of that engine is going to be very different, which means that huge RPM he can pull. Maybe we can see him run this a big mile an hour down the back end. You might not see it come off the line with as much torque. Mind you, turbos, well, that's just feeding air in, feeding air and fuel, and it's good to go.
100%. Big hello to everybody who's watching on the Sydney Dragway official YouTube channel. We are trying to keep an eye on the comments at the same time, so let us know where you are watching from, and we hope you are enjoying the coverage today. We do seem to have fixed our internet issues and our audio issues from yesterday. We do apologise for the inconvenience yesterday, but there were some unforeseen issues, that is for sure, so we hope you're enjoying it today. Dave Roberts in the black dragster, Craig Geddes in the orange and silver Chevy Cavalier. You're going to find a pretty big gap between these two at the finish line, all things being equal, because it is qualifying. They'll leave together. Dave Roberts on a good run here, 109 to the 60-foot timers. Well and truly sub 5 seconds to the half-track timers, and a 7.16 at 187 miles per hour. That's a solid pass for him. 9.05, which is not too far off the index of an 8.88 for Craig Geddes. So he will stay in the... In fact, it might actually bump him up a spot or two in the qualifying list. I think he might bump up to 4th. Dave Roberts, so he will go into the field in around about the number 6 position with that one.
Well, it didn't take long to wind up, did it, with the turbos? A little bit of boost went in, got away. A little bit of tyre shake there. You can just see some of the chatter marks on the track as well. So just had a slight bit of tyre spin, then some shake as he drove out of that one. As we move on to our next category here for our qualifying session here this morning.
Extreme bike, by the look of it. So extreme bike. Now, it was a bit of a mixed bag for these guys yesterday. We saw a couple of bikes get down the racetrack, but nobody really laying down the kind of representative runs that we know that they can. Lockie Island, a 787, he's actually riding the bike that he usually competes in Pro Stock Motorcycle on this weekend, the only wheelie bike bar in this extreme bike field, I believe. And the cool thing about extreme bike is The only real rule is that there's no nitro. Everything else is on the table. Unfortunately for Lockyer Island, though, that bike has lost fire after the burnout, and Diane as a party will go on a solo pass. We do have, I believe it's Brett Roberts down there at the top end of the racetrack, perched on top of the hill, right down in the braking area. We'll go to the shot. As you can see on the camera there, we've got him hooked up, so we're not going to be down for too long. We'll get him cleared off the top end of the racetrack. Shouldn't be too much of a delay whatsoever.
Well, that's bad luck for Lockyer Island, because that bike being pushed back now, and it went out, the noise went out very, very quickly. They've been working on that bike overnight, and he's also backing it up. He's racing one of the top fuel bikes this weekend as well. And
he is.
And that was unfortunate. Didn't get a run in yesterday. Didn't get a run in. So there's a fair bit of work going on down the pits for Lockyer Island and the crew.
It is good to see such a strong bike contingent at this event. Extreme Bike, very, very solid entry list, and also Top Bike had a really solid entry list as well. And of course, bikereview.com.au, modified bike, always strong here in Sydney. Diana as a party, this is not going to be one of the quickest bikes in the field. She's aiming for consistency this weekend, and she certainly picks that up. Picks up almost 0.3 of a second, or over 0.3 of a second, I should say. Diana's party goes to number 4 in the qualifying list with that 9.42, 146 miles per hour. At the moment, Alex Borg is number 1 with a 7.24. The bike that I would really like to see come out in this session is Leonard as a party. He's back there in number 5 at the moment with a 9.88, but we know that that bike can run in the 6-second zone at well and truly over 210 miles per hour.
Yeah, it is the one to see. Maybe Alex Borg alongside, because they are the first extreme bikes to do side-by-side 6-second passes between those two. So let's hope they come out in this session. Darren Foley, comes forward in the Rams head service. CHE Precision, Castrol Extreme Bike. Now the Hayabusa, of course. Power adder of choice is the Turbocharger.
So for everybody watching online today, we will be live streaming on the Sydney Dragway official page until about 2:45 this afternoon, when we will switch over to the full coverage with the broadcast cameras that will be featuring around the venue here in the full show with all the flame cannons and everything like that. So we'll have more details on exactly where that's going to be streamed very, very shortly. But definitely stay tuned to the Top Fuel Australia Facebook page as well for all the updated information in regards to that. Darren Foley now on his Suzuki Hayabusa on a pretty stout pass here, but it looks like no time recorded, unfortunately. The green light came on, but nothing coming up on the timing screens, unfortunately.
Yeah, some issues there, and that's really strange. I think he might have just broken the beams a little bit early there, waiting as they came in, and like we asked for, Alex Borg is now here and ready to go. This is what we wanted to see. Mr. Borg coming out, taking on Leonard as a party alongside an extreme bike here for the qualifying session number 2. Now, we have seen both these bikes go side-by-side 6-second passes at over 200 miles an hour. Well, we see it here this afternoon. Conditions are looking absolutely fantastic. It's great to see so many people watching us on the live stream, but it's even better to see so much of the crowd starting to roll in here to Sydney Dragway. Glorious afternoon. We've got some big racing to happen, as well as today you get the bonus. After yesterday, we get a bonus run today as an extra top fuel run being done for qualifying session number 2 for those guys, as well as Pro Stock. Obviously, Pro Mod has already come out this morning, so they'll get another run in before they go to their all-run format. So we are going to see 3 rounds of Top Fuel, 3 rounds of Pro Stock, 3 rounds of Top Fuel Bike, and, of course, 3 rounds of the Pro Mod guys. Top Fuel, everything, all-run format. We're going to see them come out 3 times and take it on to see who will take home the first ever trophy here in the Burson's Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship. Last couple of words there from the starter there to Leonard as a party. I believe we are just a little bit of a reset on the system here, as Leonard will just back that bike out. Well, hopefully those tyres won't get too cool. They'll be looking at that one. Leonard has done many, many passes in the 6-second zone on that tiny rear tyre. No wheelie bars on these bikes. Tiny back tyre. You really got to hold on to them as they go in. Alex Borg just getting it in. Leonard has a party in pre-stage now. They'll look alongside teammates when it comes down to this sort of racing, both out of the as a party racing stables. Up on the 2-step now. The boost goes in. The Hayabusas. This one looks good for Leonard. He's come on strong, but Borg gets a nice run, spins a tyre, but gets on top of it. 7.04 at 210 miles an hour to a 7.36 at 187 for Leonard as a party. So Alex Borg, 7.04. Right up there at the number 1 at the moment with the teammates there, but getting there at 210 miles an hour. So nice run there from Alex Borg. We'll put him number 1. Leonard as a party in second, 7.36 at 187 miles an hour. I think as the Lockyer Island on yesterday's run on a 7.87.
Oh, man.
Deanne as a party there with a 9.42 a little bit early in 5th position. So we've got Jeff Gradden still to come out, and Darren Foley obviously did not record a time in this session.
I step out for 2 seconds and I miss a 210-mile-an-hour run.
It's just extreme bike. It's just every day.
What the hell, guys?
It is a tiny tyre they do that on. It's a wild ride for him to come out. Alex Borg actually got on top of the tyre. It looked like it spun just a little bit, but it kept that momentum up and gripped up and launched him down there, whereas Leonard just bogged down a little bit. They are running quite a substantial amount of engine management on these bikes. A bit like it's probably the pro mod version, I suppose, of motorbike racing.
Yeah, very much. It's exactly the same concept as the way that they dial in the power management with the turbos and the wastegates and all that sort of stuff. It's exactly the same thing, just on a smaller scale on the motorcycle. Arguably harder to get these right because you've got a lot smaller tyre. They don't run a huge tyre under the back of these outlaw street bike style motorcycles. And when you consider you've got no wheelie bar on it either, it really does come down to the power management, the way that the rider can get up over the handlebars. You'll actually see Leonard as a party and Alex Borg and even Darren Foley as well on these bikes. They'll actually get way up over the handlebars. They'll get their chest as far forward as they possibly can just to try and get as much weight forward and just try and push that front end down because these things are absolute animals to ride.
We really do see when that back tyre grabs, they get right up in the air, don't they? And then you obviously have to get out of your run. That's not what you want. You want to try and get them down. But it's just the amount of speed they make from half-track onwards with the turbocharger there and the full engine management comes in, the boost winds up, and that's where we see those 200-plus mile-an-hour runs down there, which, you know, in terms of kilometres an hour, that means they're going well above 320 kilometres an hour as they get down the far end. So that's flying on a bike on a tiny little tyre on the back. Not like our top fuel bikes. They've got a really large back tyre there. They're probably, you know, these things are tiny, more like a street tyre. Slick style, obviously, like a racing style tyre, but more like your street orientated size.
100%. We're going to be moving into Supercharged Outlaws very, very shortly. And I can see Dwayne Day down there in the fire-up box. And I believe that there is another car alongside her. I'm just trying to get the cameras. No, actually, it looks like she'll be going on a solo pass here. So Supercharged Outlaws not too far away from firing up. One thing I do want to say as well, to the Sydney Dragway track crew, to all of our officials, to pretty much all the staff that were out here, these guys got out and dried this racetrack 4 times yesterday. 4 times from a wet racetrack to a dry racetrack in just an effort to try and get back to racing. And without a shadow of a doubt, they are some of the hardest workers in all of motorsport, and we can't do it without them. So to all the Sydney track crew, to all of our fire crew, to all of the start line guys, the finish line guys, and everybody who comes together to be a part of these events, I just want to say a massive thank you to them, because without them, we don't get to go racing. We don't get to put on a show like the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship. So it's absolutely killer to have them here. Wouldn't trade them for the world, Matty.
Look, good news is too, we do have our shirts up there in the grandstands. You want to grab one of the first ever Burson's Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship shirts.
Yep.
They are for sale up at the Sydney Merchandise stand. Go up there, up on the main hill here behind the spectators' seating. You grab yourself a shirt. Get yourself something to remind you of the weekend. They are limited stock actually this weekend, so get in early.
Yep, and if you buy one, Matty Cav will autograph it for free.
I'll sign anything.
Yep, 100%. Anything?
Yeah.
You're leaving yourself open there, Matty. Leaving yourself open. We are going to be firing up with Supercharged Outlaws very, very shortly. We're going to take a few words from our fantastic partners here at the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship and Sydney Dragway. We'll be back very, very shortly here at this fantastic event.
We come from Cairns. We drove here in a convoy with about 8 of us.
Just love it. Just having fun, yeah. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's part of the journey is getting here. We absolutely love it.
What can I say? We're redheads.
Red Centre Nats on Father's Day in Alice Springs 2022. It is on sale now.
Supercharged Outlaws time now, and that is Toby Austin from Wallsend in New South Wales. The Pit Crew Auto Parts. I believe it's a Pontiac bodied funny car, that one. Doing a day in the rear engine dragster down there, both running Brad Anderson style Hemi engines. Pair-size supercharger on top for Doina Day. Great to see her up from Seymour in Victoria. First time we've seen her here for quite some time, Matty Cav.
It's been a while since she's been on track here at Sydney Dragway, but yesterday wasn't too bad. Number 5 qualifier there. Didn't get down the track the way that she wanted to. It went 11-second run there, so they got a bit of work to do. Tony Austin, on the other hand, 6.41 is what he got down the track. So probably where we start to see things happening. Looks like Dana Day, there may be some issues there finding reverse out on tracks. You can see the crew there starting to look at trying to push that car back. Even if the car's stopped, the main thing is if we can get the car back past the wall, we can still run the other car, and it's really going to come down to temperature. Of course, if the car is overheating there for Tony Austin, I have to see what gearbox he's got in that, but if the car starts to get too much temperature, they'll have to shut that car down. Then you've got to go back through the procedure to start it up again. So they'll just be trying to get this dragster out of the way so Tony Austin can get through, get another qualifying time, and see how he goes with that 6.41 that he got yesterday.
It's a shame to see Dyana Day getting pushed back down there. It looks like, I'm not sure if she couldn't find reverse or if the car lost fire after the burnout, but either way, it doesn't look like... hopefully it's not a terminal problem, but it doesn't look like she will be able to make this qualifying pass. In the meantime, Toby Austin will be going on a solo pass here. Former junior dragster stalwart, I believe an former Australian champion in junior dragster, Toby Austin.
Not a bad start there. 106 to the 60 foot, goes 6.48, 196, backs up that 6.41 from yesterday. Won't improve on the time, but a very, very reliable combination there.
Yeah, it's a solid pass for Toby Austin. He goes to the #1 qualifying spot, or I should say remains in the #1 qualifying spot. Speed down, as you said, down about 20 mile an hour at the finish line, so maybe just shut it off just a touch early down there, running through the qualifying list as it stands at the moment. Toby Austin, #1 with a 6.41. Paul Stephen in #2 with a 7.26. Darren Hubbard in #3 position with a 7.65, followed by Tim Stewart. And Dyana Day having a troubled weekend back there in 5th. Next up, it is the Atlantic Oils sponsored car of Paul Stephen, who's coming out to have a skid in this still new combination for him. This car, this altered. Car formerly campaigned by Greg Smith, but it's had pretty much a full overhaul since Greg had it, new paint job. And car looking absolutely fantastic with the flames today.
Yeah, came out and got a win here last year, or 2020 actually, I think, when he first had this car. They came out and did one run here at Sydney Dragway, walked away with a little present to take home, so he's done well already in the Supercharged Outlaw category, of course sponsored by Atlantic Oils, Mccarthy Garages, Craig's Automatics and CCR Royal.
Now we still do have Toby Austin at the top end of the racetrack. I think they've just hooked him up to the buggy down there, and they will be able to tow him off before we get Paul Stephen into the staging beam, so that shouldn't be too much of an issue whatsoever.
Do you think Tony Austin may have just got off that a little bit early? He sat there for quite a long time while they tried to get the other car back.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Sure, just not want to risk it.
Yeah, it might have just had a little bit too much heat. I'm not sure what kind of transmission he runs in that car, so if it is an automatic style transmission, perhaps just had a little bit too much heat in it. But either way, that car is pretty much down at the turnout area now, and Paul Stephen will be cleared for takeoff, so to speak.
526 cubes on board. Keith Black in the front of this altered. Ready to go. We're just waiting to see what happens here. The crew doing the final checks. Gets the signal there. Everyone ready to go here for Paul Stephen on a solo run here this afternoon at Sydney Dragway. All part of the Burson's Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship. Great to see so many people coming down and enjoying the festivities here today. We've got FMX motocross coming later on. We've got drift cars. We're going to finish the night off with some burnouts and some fireworks.
Really looking forward to it. It's going to be a good one, that is for sure. In full stage now, 109 to the 60 foot. Tom, it sounds like it doesn't want to shift gear.
A lot of clutch dust coming out of that.
A lot of clutch dust and a lot of smoke out of the car as he crosses the finish line down there. 695, 178. It sounded like it was just straight up on the revs, and the RPMs never really changed. Oh, a lot of smoke right down the deep end. As we have a look up on the giant screen there, you can see a lot of smoke coming out of the left-hand side of the car. Hopefully there is no stuff coming out of it. Hopefully it all is contained.
That's all burning internally and coming out the exhaust pipe.
Well, look, if there's smoke, that means it's burning. Let's just hope it's all burnt off before it hits the deck. That's what we can hope for. There is pretty good containment systems on these cars. We've got a full nappy, in inverted commas, or containment system as they're called. They've got absorbent fibres in the bottom of those to try and soak up any oil or any fuel that might come out of it. So hopefully, fingers crossed, there's nothing on the racing surface and we can keep pushing on with the racing here today. He has turned the corner down there, and as you can see, how good are all these cameras that we've got around the place here at Sydney Dragway now? We can see pretty much everything that's going on at any point from behind the tower all the way through to the turnout area now.
Yeah, the check's being done by our safety crews down the far end. It's good to see them straight onto where Paul Stevens is, and they'll be checking that out. It did do a lot of clutch dust the whole way down there, so maybe that might have just been a bit of RPM. There may be some valve damage or something in the driveline. Hopefully that all gets pulled up fine. But I'll tell you what, Top Fuel not too far away. We've got them coming out soon to do some. They'll have to get another qualifying session in today, so that'll be coming out. I can't wait for that, really, just simply because yesterday we saw so many 3-second passes already, and they've come out on trying conditions yesterday, very humid. The track kept getting a little bit of precipitation on it, kept getting a little bit wet, drying it out. To see those 3-second passes there reliably. We talk about people like Pete Shibris, who came out just to do a half-track run. Only wanted to go 660 foot, but just stayed. It was just going a little bit too good for him, and he thought, you know what, I'm going to stay in this a little bit longer. 383, our number one qualifier from yesterday. Of course, Shane Oliver's first time out racing, qualified with a 389, his third fastest. And so that was great to see from him as well. The team's getting down there quite successfully. And, of course, Phil Reid there with a 385 in the middle of those two in the Hydrolink Dragster. And, of course, Hydrolink got some fantastic competitions running today we'll get to very shortly, where you can actually get onto the website and try and win yourself a start line experience if you are here at the track. So that's one of the things that we will be doing today. You can get yourself a start line experience if you are at the track. Of course, you need to go to the Hydrolink and go to joinhydrolink.com. Scroll down and obviously make sure you enter that, put your details in, and you could win yourself a start line experience. We're going to pick some lucky people out of the crowd. 3 lucky people. All you got to do is go to the website, joinhydrolink.com, scroll down to the competition entry and enter your details, and maybe you could be out there experiencing what is Top Fuel between them. 22,000 horsepower unleashed on your ears. It's something you can just not tell people about. You've got to experience this. Guy Greenland heads down in the wagon, a 1094 dial into a 1031 dial into Sean Smith. Super Street action now, all thanks to Go Logistics.
And we've got Sean Smith taking the win there. Of course, these races now in competition, Matty. A 10.40 with a 5.1, 29 mile an hour for Sean Smith to take the win. Next up, we're going to have Henry Spikak in the black Holden utility, taking on Chris Greach in the blue Holden utility.
Good to see the Canberrans over here. Yeah, the Perfection Racing VZ Commodore Ute. Obviously a 1032 dial into Henry Spikak with that 1212 dial in the Commodore Ute. More of a street style, I suppose. The LS3 on board, 6.2 litres. Just a couple of LSs going at it.
Yeah, exactly right. Matty Cabs in his element. Of course, a 12 dial in means the black Ute will leave first. In theory, these two races will be neck and neck at the finish line. This is where reaction times and car consistency are rewarded, hopefully with a win light.
If you've never seen dial-in racing before, you get your opportunity to set your dial-in time. If you go faster than that, you give the race away, but it will give you a handicap in the right thing. But a red light there for Henry Spikak. He goes before the green. And unfortunately, that means an automatic wing to Chris Creech in the Perfection Racing Holden VZ Ute. Will he go 10.30? And he breaks out, but he'll retain that win there because of the red light from Henry Spikak. A 10.16 at 133 from Chris Creech.
Yeah, the only way that Spikak could have won that race is what they call the first or worst rule. So Spikak had red lit. That's the first thing. If Chris Creech had hit the wall or crossed the centre line, then he would have handed the win back to Spikak. But fortunately for Chris, he's going to move on to round number 2. Next pairing up, we've got Timothy Ritzrau and Adam Bowers. Bowers in the HQ, running for High Performance World. Dialed in with a 10.52. He's going to have to wait a whole second on the start line. He's got a little bit of an advantage, an 0.99 reaction time to a 1.92. So he's picked up a tenth of a second. He's got that in the bank towards the bottom end of the racetrack, and he's able to convert it to a win. A 10.63 with a 6 on a 10.52. Only 121 mile an hour there. And
there was only 64 thousandths of a second of the difference over the finish line that time. So, you know, that is extremely close, and goes to show with those dial-ins how you can really start to match the cars up. As Andrew Heinrich already in full stage, 12.6 dial in the fully sick VN Commodore, taking on Peter Valaris in the XT Falcon. 10.47 is the dial. He's got a bit of time to wait. Doesn't matter. Red light from Andrew Heinrich. Peter Valaris picks those wheels up at the front, the XT. hear the chirp of the tyres. It just tries not to spin them. Goes 10.37 at 1:31, so he actually breaks out. But luckily enough, he's still going to get the win with Andrew Heinrich beating the green by 4 thousandths of a second.
Absolutely nothing in the light there for Andrew Heinrich, unfortunately, on the trailer. Valaris got the opportunity to test the dial, and if you like, he went a 10th under. So I wonder if we'll see that adjusted for round number 2 of Go Logistics Super Street. Next up, we've got Jim Raptus in the yellow Tirana taking on Chris Zammit in the VT Commodore.
Yeah, Chris Buddha Zammit, as he's known, got the Buddha number plates on. The VT Commodore, of course, our less power, taking on Jim Raptus, 10.75 in the SLR Tirana, all thanks to Go Logistics. Oh, Tirana twists up. He's got to chase him down. It's a 2.35 though, but Chris Zammit, a 0.60 reaction time. If he can run to his dial, and he might get this.
I think something's wrong with Zammit because the Tirana's come around him 11.30 with a 0 on a 10.75 will take it. So I think something wrong with the Zammit machine there. Slowed to a 13.08 at only 103 mile an hour.
Yeah, Jim Raptus as well has slowed down then. I thought he thought, oh no, I'm going to break out. Only 108 mile an hour. Would have expected to see him a little bit quicker than that, maybe in the teens.
Next up, we've got Chelsea Smith from Albion Park in the Holden Commodore taking on Luke Tex Griffis.
Got to love the big Plymouth Satellite. Dialed in 10.47 too. This thing goes wheels up down the track. Chelsea Smith with a 10.70 dial in. Will leave the lights first. They're going to get herself just over 0.2 of a second handicap on this one. But let's have a look at the Plymouth. Always puts a show on for the crowd here at Sydney Dragway. How high will the wheels go?
Well, the 2 runs he did yesterday, he did lift them, not a huge amount, but he did lift them off the deck. Keep in mind, there's a lot of weight there to lift up. And this big car from French's Forest, dialing with a 10.47, away with an 0.43 reaction time, leaving nicely, 2.36 for Chelsea Smith in the Commodore. The big green Plymouth with the advantage and converts it to a win, 10.81 with a 0, 118 mile an hour. He's on to round number 2. Chelsea Smith out of the competition with a 10.87.
Yeah, 126 miles an hour. I reckon Tex was the same. Just eased off a little bit down the far when you really that suspension pushes those back wheels into the ground really nicely on the Plymouth too. Maximises the amount of traction. Nathan Gosson now is coming out in this Ford Capri, all thanks to Big H Racing. BG engines on board in the front, supplying the power plant.
Yes, very nicely presented. Street car, this one. He went into the 9s yesterday, but was able to slow it down for his second run, running 10.02, 135 mile an hour.
Just giving it a little look-see, the little Windsor. Having a little look at the 9s. Obviously Super Street, all thanks to Go Logistics. Need to keep in that 10-second plus range. 10.04 with a 4, 134 miles an hour. That is another nice run.
Yeah, very consistently backing up his qualifying time, 134 mile an hour. We'll see that Ford Capri back for round number 2 of Go Logistics Super Street.
So we got through them already. Looks like we might be moving on. I'm just going to see if we got any more coming out, because we did have a big field there of the Go Logistics Super Street. Though we have got through them. Looks like we are going to move on to our Western Weekend of Junior Drags. So up next, they're about to come out of here. Of course, the future of drag racing in Australia here. A lot of names you'll be very familiar with coming out in the Junior Dragsters. And super competitive as well. That's what I like to see in this category, and it will be coming out. This will be their first round of racing as well. So they've done their qualifying yesterday. They are getting straight into racing here today. The Saturday, day number 2 of the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship. So good to see people rolling in and filling up those stands here at Sydney Dragway. Don't forget, for a limited amount of T-shirts we've got for sale as well. If you want to go up and get those ones, they are up at the Sydney stand here for the merchandise up the top here as you enter. At the top of the stairs? Yep, at the top of the stairs. So head over there, find your merchandise, because, yeah, shirts, limited numbers. Get in, get them, and I'm going to get off now and give Stu back the mic.
Thank you very much, Matty Cav. We're going to have Stu McCarthy join me in commentary for the first round of competition for the Western Weekender Junior Dragsters here at Sydney Dragway, part of the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship. Welcome to the mic, Stu.
Good to be back, Bushy. You were up and about in that first lot of events and races we had before. I must admit, you're the man that knows more about these cars than me, because you used to race them only 22 years ago.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, just not that long ago. But I reckon these kids and the mums and dads and families do an amazing job. Tell us about this division.
They do. I mean, this division is set up for kids 8 to 17 years of age. It's divided into 3 subcategories, if you like, A, B, and C. The C junior dragster races are generally the younger competitors, so they're limited to an ET. Then when they become a little bit older, a little bit more experienced, they can run a little bit faster. They move into B junior dragster. Then once they're, I think, 14 plus, I think, then they move into the A junior dragster, which is where they're able to run in competition. In eliminations, they can run as quick as a 7.9 second pass. Of course, these cars run over the 8th mile, so 200 metres. They run to half track, and then they slow and then run round through the turn-off area just past the big scoreboard. But there's no electronics in these cars. All the reaction times, all done with the driver's brain, eye and foot.
Which is the best thing about this division, because these kids are learning how to do it old school way.
That's right.
So then when they eventually, if they've got the backing, the money, obviously, to step up into bigger classes and bigger race cars, and yes, all right, technology comes into it where they're assisted, but they've got that original idea of what you need to do correct to get these cars off the start line and down the straight. 100%,
that's exactly right, Stu. We've got Todd Wagner in the rocket lane, dialed him with 12.14. He's being chased by Alira Cartham, and Cartham will take the win. An 0.79 reaction time, I think the credit there, went 8.13 with a 6, 75 mile an hour in the aeroflow lane to take the win, and a 12.32 with a 9 on a 12.14 dial in.
And you know the other thing I love about what I see, especially with the junior dragsters, the crew chiefs of opposing, they all go and shake hands, which is fantastic to see.
Yeah, there's a great amount of sportsmanship that goes on in junior dragster and also drag racing in general, I think. We've got Claire Little from Forbes in New South Wales. She's running her junior dragster for her mum and dad, so great that she's able to thank her parents, obviously. Dialed in with an 8.0, the reaction time. The dial-in time. Jake McNamara dialed in with a 7.90.
And I love how Jake McNamara, sponsor Nan and Pop. You said mum and dad for Claire. Jake, Nan and Pop. And that just shows how much the families are involved, not only for junior dragsters, but everybody out there in those pits behind us.
Exactly right. And it is such a family affair. Like we often see that there was the Perry family. They had 3 kids in junior dragster at one point.
What kind of dollars, Bushy? Like, I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Hard to say. Things have moved a lot from the time when I was racing, but it depends, like anything, how fast you want to go. And Claire Little takes the win there, runs an 8.04 with a 2, 79.54 mile an hour. She was 42 thousandths of a second slower than her dial-in time, which is a fantastic pass. Jake McNamara, unfortunately, giving away the race on the start line with the red light.
So 80 miles per hour, what does that equate to?
I think about 130 odd kilometres
130 odd kilometres. So for the kids that might be here watching, when you're going down the highway with mum and dad in the car, most of the time you can only do 100 kilometres an hour.
Yep.
They're doing that with another 30 kilometres at the finish line. So you work that out. That's shows they're moving.
Well, exactly right, they're moving. And I think also, too, you've got to remember that their seat is only probably...
You'd be sitting as close as a go-kart, wouldn't you?
Yeah, similar height off the ground to a go-kart. So probably about 10 centimetres, 100 mil, thereabouts.
Yep.
Believe me, it feels a lot faster than what the speeds actually indicate.
And like, I'll be honest, we're behind, so it's always a little bit harder to tell because we're watching cars move away from us.
Yep.
It doesn't look like they're doing 130 kilometres an hour.
No, and I think because they're so small as well, so they have a few things that work against them visually in that sense. But let me tell you, these cars will absolutely demolish a HSV Club Sport or a XR8 Falcon.
To where their finishing line is.
To the finishing line.
Yeah.
If they could continue at the same rate of acceleration, they'd probably beat them over the quarter too. But
really,
the gearing would have to be changed, obviously, to allow that to happen. So Ryan Pettiford dialed in with an 8.46, taking on Daniel Carranza. Good side-by-side pass here. Carranza will take the win from Victoria. Dialed in with an 8.03. He went 8.10 with a 2. So that's Ryan Pettiford out of competition, unfortunately, with an 8.59 with a 4 on his 8.46. So just running a little bit slow off his dial-in time there was Pettiford. Carranza is going to move on through to round number 2 of the Western Weekender Junior Dragster competition here this weekend. Next pairing up, we've got Samuel Perry taking on Archie Boscovich. Perry running for Top Form Concrete, dialed in with an 8.10. He's going to have to be very patient on the start line. He's going to wait 3.9 seconds. Boscovich is going to get the big advantage off the start line. He's dialed in with a 12 flat. He's one of our C Junior Dragster competitors, so certainly a younger fellow, but he is third generation racer.
Future stars of the sport.
Very much so. Boscovich into full stage. He's got both white lights lit on that Christmas tree. Perry's in full stage now. He's ready to go. Like I said, he's just going to have to be patient. A 3.04 reaction time for Boscovich. Perry's picked up about 0.2, left with an 0.85. Oh, Perry's broken out, Stu. He's gone too fast. Went 8.04 with the 6 on an 8.10 dial in, handing the win back to Boscovich. He got there by 0.6 of a second, but that's the killer of the dial-in. You can't go under it and win the race if your competitor in the other lane has gone slower than the dial-in. It's a big equaliser.
And you can see how happy the family are down here. They're high-fiving and smiling and talking about, obviously, because the way that race was set up. Not very often you see that.
Well, the crew know when their driver cuts a good light. So does the driver. The driver has ample time to process how well he or she's left the start line. You know when it's good because you leave the line, you think, oh no, that's red, and it stays green.
It stays green. And I must admit, like obviously these kids come back down to where the burnout pad is. They're right opposite you, the fans that are here at the venue. Make sure you show your appreciation to these young kids. They're doing a fantastic job, and as Bushy said, they are the future stars of the sport. So show your appreciation. I'm quite sure they'd love to have a chat to you. Go down and see them in the pits, because that's the beauty of this venue.
Yep.
Your general admission ticket gets you into the pitch. You can walk around, obviously try and do the safe distance thing that we need to all adhere by, but go down and have a chat to these kids. Get an autograph. They might even have a poster for you.
But some do. Some have the racer cards and all that sort of stuff printed up. But Ross Lamentina taking on Alex Rothenbury now. Lamentina dialed in with an 8.06. What can he do at the bottom end of the racetrack? He broke out, went 8.01 with a 0 on an 8.06.
Just seeing Phil running back. He's getting ready to strap into his Top Fuel dragster. He was down there checking, I assume it's his son, was it?
Yes.
Or, son out there just in the junior dragster.
So Ross lucky there. The other competitor did red light on the start line, so he would have had time to see that red light, know that he's basically got another shot to check the dial in.
I love the look of this little junior dragster, the green and the black.
Yeah, they put a lot of effort into presentation, these junior dragsters. A lot of them, everything is, all the aluminium is either anodised a colour or polished.
Yep.
In the airflow lane, we've got Joshua Burtonshaw in the D&J Haulage junior dragster.
Questions?
With the 792.
Sorry, Bushy.
Yep.
And I guess most of these kids would be very hands-on with their cars, like learning how to do different things. Like back when you were racing, that was the case. You were very hands-on.
Yes, I mean, I think that was part of me going racing. Like, Dad had said to me, get outside and give me a hand. I can't do it all. He was running his own business. I'm sure a lot of these racers are in the same boat. They're not full-time racers in the sense that they've got some full-time crew to allow them to come and prep the car for them. People have to get out, and things do need maintenance between rounds. They're pretty good come race day, but looks like Max Perry, his red lit. Unfortunately, Burtonshaw will take the first round win here. But as you say, Stu, yes, and I think that is a very important part of racing is actually prepping the car and going through the learning basic mechanical principles, because you move up to another car, there's more involved. You need more people, sort of thing. So to have a little bit of mechanical aptitude is certainly an advantage.
Well, if that was me, I wouldn't even know how to do the belts up.
You'd learn.
You'd learn. I don't know if I'd fit in there though.
I don't know. If you can find a car that you can fit in, I want to drive too.
All right.
I know Chad Naylon, who we'll see on the start line a little bit later on. I'm pretty sure he's driven one.
One of the junior dragsters, has
Yep.
he? Yeah, but have a look at the size of him. He's ready to ride in the first Tuesday of November.
Well,
which is the Melbourne Cup, by the way.
Yes,
I just thought
yes,
I'd clarify that. Some people... There's nothing of Chad.
No, very. He'd fit in one of most of these.
Well,
cars
I believe the shirt that he's got on is a small boys' side shirt. It's not a men's shirt. And it's always good to be able to do this while Chad's not here and he can't come back.
Got no comeback.
So that's Tegan Smith out there from Albion Park.
Taking the opportunity to test the dial in there. She was our #1 qualifier in that run there. 7:98 with a 180.83 mile an hour there. Went to the 60-foot timer in just under 1.7 seconds. And I believe that concludes the first round of racing here for the Western Weekender Junior Dragsters. We're going to be moving on to a modified bike brought to us by bikereview.com.au. First pairing up in mod bike for this round. Stu, we're going to have Christopher Hocking taking on Darren Goldner.
Just while we're waiting for them to come out, we might pay a couple of quick bills before they come out onto the racetrack here at Sydney Dragway for the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship, round number 1.
Grab your Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship limited edition sublimated t-shirts from the merchandise outlets now.
We've always had a few cars. They're all special. The T-Bird.
Oh, that's mine.
The Combi for when we want to get away. The XR8.
It's going to be a classic.
They're all insured with Shannon's.
We've also got Shannon's Home and Contents cover,
which helps protect our automotive collectibles, tools and memorabilia in the home and garage. If you're motoring enthusiasts like us, it's got to be
Shannon's.
Shannon's, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 13 46 46 for a quote.
We come from Cairns. We drove here in a convoy with about 8 of us.
Just having fun, yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's just part of the journey is getting here. Absolutely love it.
What can I say? We're redheads.
Red Centre Nats on Father's Day in Alice Springs 2022. It is on sale now.
Oh, as you would. Why wouldn't you want to go to the Red Centre Nats?
Yeah, it looks like a fantastic event. And Goldner away with a 0.74 reaction time. Will Hocking be able to chase him down at the bottom end of the racetrack? I think he's out in front. He gets there, 9.71 with a 129 miles an hour on a motorbike there. And Darren Goldner, a 10.33 with a 5 at 128 miles per hour. So I think 130 mile an hour is just short of 200.
I call that fast.
Yep.
That's what that is.
That's a very simple way of putting it.
Correct. And then it's even a lot faster when you don't have a cage around you.
Yes.
And all you have is a bit of leather and a helmet on you.
Very
That's
much
it.
so. There's 200 kilometres an hour faster than I'll ever go on a bike.
I must admit, I have been on the back of a bike as a pillion passenger doing 220, but let's not talk about that.
We won't say where or when.
A long time ago.
Adrian Watson on the Yamaha R6 running for Shed Built Racing, taking on Bobby Joe Simmons, running for Reed Carpentry out of Bligh Park. Simmons on the Hayabusa, dialed in with a 950. She's in the rocket lane. 0.72 her reaction time. Will she be able to trace down Watson? Here comes the Hayabusa. She's out in front. Gets there, 9.67 with a 4, 135 mile an hour and 11.20, 128 there for Watson. So something I think going away there. He's dropped about 2/10 off the dial in, but Bobby J. Simmons will move on to the next round. Next pairing up, we've got Brandt Gulliver from South Windsor running for Mick Home Motorcycles. Dialed in with a 10.10. He's on the Suzuki in the Aeroflow lane. Sean Ricketts from Castle Hill on the Kawasaki. In the rocket lane, Ricketts dialed in with a 9.18. So he's got the best part of a second that he's going to have to wait.
And that must be tough. Like, it's only a second, but that'd feel like 10 seconds sitting down there.
Yeah, very much so. When we used to race across the road, my highest weight was 12. But
12 seconds, wow.
Looks like a good side-by-side race. And Sean Ricketts is going to take the win. 9:27 with a 3, 143 mile an hour. Gulliver got there first, Stu, but he went too fast on a 10:46, I think it was. Next up, we have Robert Simmons taking on Travis Mccarthy. Mccarthy dialed in with a 10:12 in the Rocket Lane. Simmons dialed in with an 8:99. He's our number 3 qualifier on that Suzuki Hayabusa.
I'll wait for this pass, and then I've got a question I do want to pose to you, Bushy.
No problem.
Another one.
We see Simmons up on that rev limiter. McClatherty's thrown it away with an 0.42 reaction time. Simmons is going to take the win. He'll be moving on to round number 2. Simmons probably lucky there with a 3.92 reaction time. Probably slow by his standards. Yes, Stu, what was your question?
So my question is, Bushy, obviously we know with the cars and the bigger powered bikes, the top fuel bikes, whatever, they do a lot of maintenance in between runs. Are these kind of guys doing a lot to their bikes in general, or not?
I wouldn't think so. I think obviously now that you can buy nearly a 9-second bike out of the factory, you know, a lot of these guys, it depends on their systems. If they're running an air shifter, they might have to check their air bottle. You know, they'd be putting fuel in it, of course, checking tyre pressures and those sorts of things. But I can't foresee that they'd be, you know, ripping cylinder heads off and all that sort of stuff, because they don't have time to do any of that, to check that sort of stuff. I think that if it was that dire situation, it'd be put back on the trailer and taken home for the weekend.
Stephen Bush, an ex-racer, been in the commentary box for a few years now, and giving you an insight. I'm the newbie guy, Stu McCarthy, asking the questions that probably don't get asked that often when you're at events like this.
Yeah,
so
I think that's you know, sometimes they're the questions that I'm sure some people out on the in the crowd are wanting answered. A 9:58 dial in for Dale Williams. Joe Curry in the Rocket Lane chasing him down on that Destroyer. Curry didn't get there. He was a bit slow on the reaction time. 1.97 reaction time. Dale Williams will take the win. 9:71 with a 140 mile an hour through the finish line. The racer from Cowra, he's going to move on to the next round of bikereview.com.au modified bike. Okay, we're now moving on to the next round of Super Sedan.
Yeah, the Mighty Boy's back out. I do love the look of this Suzuki Mighty Boy.
Yeah, very tough little car. He switched lanes. He was in the Rocket Lane earlier.
Had dramas in his earlier pass today.
He had a drama or two yesterday as well. So let's hope that he's been able to sort that. Dialed in with a 10.99. Taking on Dave Gruber in the Strip Rat, the Holden Tirana. The Tirana away with a 0.50 reaction time, only 0.005 of a second in it. I tell you what, Gruber's not going to catch him. But Cowie's gone a 10.38 with a 10.38 with a 3 on a 10.99 dial in. Big breakout, 0.6 of a second. So he's fixed his problem. But
he certainly fixed it.
Unfortunately, he's found it in first round of racing, and Dave Gruber will move on to the next round in that very nice Holden Tirana.
Jason Field comes out in the Ford Telstar. My mum and my parents used to have a Ford Telstar back in the day. We used to get told to stop driving it too much. We're going to wear the pedals out by my late mother.
Yeah, I bet you didn't have a nitrous-assisted 427 Ford motor.
It felt like it when I was 18 driving it. Up against the Holden HQ 1-tonner.
Field dialed in with a 9.15 reaction time. We saw there he had to wait about a second. The 1-tonner from Pat Friolo out in front. He's on the brakes early, but still didn't slow enough. Went 10.14 with a 5 on a 10.18 dial in, breaking out. He got there first by 0.4, handing the win back to Jason Field. We're going to see that Ford Telstar back for the next round.
Bushy, hats off to you and anybody else that can read this screen and work out what's going on and be able to relay that to the fans that are sitting here at the racetrack or sitting at home on the live stream, because I look at that and go, where are you pulling that from? I know it's years of experience, but wow.
I try my best, but I do muck it up every now and then.
We just don't admit to that, though, Bushy. Hats off to you guys. You like Rusty, Matty Cav, Chad, all you guys that know how to read all this stuff, hats off to you guys, because it just pops up that quick and you guys get it out, and I'm sitting here going, where are you pulling that from?
Next up on the tree, we've got Naomi Lydell in the Pontiac Firebird chasing down Graham Blackman. Blackman in the Cortina, dialed in with a 10.91. He's out in front at the moment, but he went too fast, trying to stay in front. Lydell got in front, and she did break out, went under a dial-in, but she went under by the least, so she's still able to move on through. Next up, we've got Lou Palumbo and Nathan Watt. Watt's already completed his burnout. He's in the VL.
Yeah, I think Palumbo had a bit of a drama in his first burnout. The car it didn't do what they wanted. The crew chief pushed him back into the box to go again, so that's why that little hold-up was.
All right, well, Nathan Watt in the VL. Commodore running for Grant's Performance. Dialed in with a 9.43. Palumbo in the utility dialed in with a 9.13. So 0.3 of a second. Head start going to the VL. And Palumbo's red lit and smoked the tyres as well. We can see a very distinctive set of squirrely black lines there. Oh, look at the VL. He went 9.43 with a 1 on a 9.43 dial in, 1/1000th of a second away. His total package, Stu, was 15,000ths of a second. He left the line with an 0.14 reaction time, and he was 1,000th off the dial in.
On the wrong side of the dial.
On the right side.
On the right side.
Because he won the race, right?
Gotcha.
So his total combined package, looking at his reaction time and his dial in, was 15,000ths of a second.
Sure.
Next up, we've got Sean Maher in the HB Tirana taking on Joe Zammit in the VL Commodore. Maher dialed in with a 9.23, Zammit with a 10.15. Zammit's thrown it away with a red light on the start line, left 2,000ths of a second too soon. Sean Maher's going to be given a freebie into the next round. 9.23 with a 3 on a 9.23. It's 3,000ths of a second there too.
Wow.
It's a very well-sorted car there for Sean
And
Maher.
that's...
I don't know how to convert that to
inches
margin.
or margin. It's got to be...
It wouldn't be much.
You
could work it out, but I need a little bit of time. I can't do that in my head, Stu.
I wasn't expecting you to, Bushy. Don't worry. If it was Rusty sitting here, different story.
So what are you saying?
Well, because Rusty thinks he knows it all. No, I shouldn't say that. He's a great man, our fearless leader.
So we both looked around.
I'm glad he's not in here when I said that. Both cars got the front wheels off the racetrack.
Identical reaction times, both sides of the racetrack. We've got Michael Little taking on Robert Cartham. These two have raced each other several times before. I tell you what, 9.37 with a 0 on a 9.37 with a 0. Michael Little went absolutely perfect on the dial in there.
How often do you see that?
Very rarely.
Yep.
Very rarely.
We've seen a couple of things very rarely today so far, Bushy.
Yep. These big events, the cream rises to the top.
Yep.
So Mark Busher now. He was our #1 qualifier in Super Sedan. The nitrous-assisted Holden 1-tonner running for MB Performance. Starting with an 860. He's going to get the solo run into the second round. Nice wheels up launch there from the 1-tonner. 005 on the tree. Straight down the centre of the lane. 879 with a 6. 149 mile an hour through the finish line. And that concludes the first round of Super Sedan here at Sydney Dragway. We're going to be moving into Timmy Hot Rod Supplies Modified Eliminator. And we've got 2 dragsters sitting in the water box. Good graphical representation. The car in the rocket lane, of course the crowd side lane is how they used to do it back in the 60s and 70s. With all the engine and transmission right in front of the driver. Basically CJ Davies' legs run over the differential in that car. He sits just behind the diff. Where Dyson, he has a nice flat floor pan, I guess, for all his legs and feet to slide in on as he gets in.
So to a degree, the Davies car in the Rocket Lane,
yep.
To a degree, a little bit like a speedway car or whatever like that, where the drive line is running straight between between your ankles, pretty much.
Correct. Yep. Everything, the clutch and all that, right up next to his feet. Corey Dyson running for Mobile One Oils in that rear engine drag. So dialed in with a 7.56. He's going to have to wait 0.3 of a second. No, 0.7 of a second, beg your pardon.
Good crowd rolling in here to the venue. Hope you're enjoying early part of the afternoon here for the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship, round number 1. Both cars in staging.
Davies away with a 007 reaction time, an 0.22 on the tree for Dyson. Not too much in this one. Who will get to the bottom end of the racetrack first? It will be CJ Davies moving on to round number 2, 8.28 with a 1 to take the win. Next up, we've got Derek Wills in the T-bucket taking on Adrian McCaskill. Adriana McCaskill that very nicely presented rear engine dragster.
Just noticing a few of the top fuel teams coming out, just taking a track temperature reading.
Yeah, they're not too far away, Stu. Great to see Adriana back behind the wheel of a race car, of course, an ex-junior dragster racer.
And that just proves there, doesn't it? You can go from a junior dragster to something like this.
Yep, she ran a street car for a little while in between, but now in a purpose-built rear engine dragster, leaving the line with a 1.52 reaction time, the better of the two. Willis out in front at 1,000 foot, but McCaskill closing quickly. McCaskill takes it 7.27 with a 2, 171 mile an hour on a 7.20 dial in. Nice run there for that team, and a 7.79 with a 0 for Wills in the altered. Next up we have Craig Baker running for Paul Rogers Performance Transmissions in the rear engine dragster, taking on Daniel Flack in the 32 Bantam altered. Flack dialed in with an 8.36 to an 8.50. So these guys, not too much in between them on the dial-ins. Not sure if you'll be able to pick the difference in the tree. Only just over 1/10 of a second.
How good to see a whole lot more blue skies above us.
0.45 on the tree for Craig Baker. He's got the win because Daniel Flax left the cherry hanging on the Christmas tree. 8.50 with a 1 for Baker on his 8.50 dial-in. So another racer only 1,000ths off the dial-in. Pair of altereds doing battle now. Jason Vanderlyn taking on Alan White. White from Fairfield West running for Arnox Enterprises. He's in the Rocket Lane, dialed in with an 8.60. Vanderlyn dialed in with a 7.67.
Just noticing something down there on the start line in the Aeroflow lane. Larry Dixon just standing down there in his black suit on the left-hand side. Just sussing it all out, walking back across the track. Three-time NHRA champion. Comes over to the Rocket Lane to have a look.
casually strolling from one side to the other.
Yep.
Alan White with the better of the reaction times. 0.28 on the tree for the car in the rocket lane to an 0.62. White got there first, but went too fast by 0.03 of a second, breaking out, handing the win back to Jason Vanderlyn, who went a 7.67 with a 1 on a 7.67 dial-in, so 1,000ths over.
Wow. Quick question, Bushy.
Yes.
Obviously, I'll wait for this burnout to happen. You're not going to know exactly what Larry Dixon would have been focusing in on what he was looking at, but would he be looking at one particular thing, the way that car reacted on the start line, or is he looking at an overall package, so to speak? Like if you had your driver's hat on in that situation.
I don't drive a top fuel car. I've never driven a car. I know what you're saying, but it's hard to say what. I mean, the way that he was walking backwards and forwards, I think he might have just been looking maybe where he felt that the rear of his car might have been sitting for the launch, perhaps, to see if there was any issues with the racing surface or anything like that. I mean, the start line obviously is in very good condition here at the moment, and the track crew have done a fantastic job preparing the racing surface. I'm not 100% sure. He might have even been looking at maybe the light on the Christmas tree. Sometimes, obviously, when in the setting sun, the amber lights can be tricky to see. It's hard to say.
Yeah. But I guess he's down there just wanting that feel.
He's just
standing
getting
there just to see what's going on.
Yep.
Because I guess he's only done it once or twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, every racer has their little superstitions or their little pre-run exercise that they go through. Maybe that's what he finds calms him down.
Yep.
On the start line now, we've got Kenny Stewart in the Fuchs Lubricants rear engine drag, so dialed in with a 7.47. Our number 3 qualifier taking on Fiona Crisp, dialed in with a 7.83. Not too much in the reaction times. Crisp with a very small advantage, running towards the finish line. She takes the win. Stewart got there first, but broke out, went under the dial-in. Crisp went under by the least with a 7.81 with a 6. She's going to move on to the next round of Timmy Cotrod Supplies Modified Eliminator. The next pairing up, we've got Peter Carlton in the front engine dragster, dialing with an 8.95. Carlton taking on Shane Wind. Wind in the Fritz rear engine dragster, dialed in with a 7.73. Injected Chevy small block in the front engine dragster. Big block Chevy in the rear engine dragster. So Wind will have to be patient here. He's got 1.2 seconds roughly that he'll have to wait. Just taking his time to bring that second light on to be full staged. Saying to the starter he's ready to go. Carlton away with an 0.59 and 0.41 on the tree for Shane Wind. Not too much in it. I'm wondering if that dragster is going to be able to catch him. He got there, both races under their dial-in times, but Wind under it by the least. He's going to take the win with a 7.72 on a 7.73. Next up, we're going to have Jess Turner in that nitrous-assisted rear engine dragster, running for Higgins Raceheads. Turner, our number 1 qualifier, and Timmy Cotrod Supplies Modified Eliminator, dialing with a 7.46 here. Now, we saw that car run a 6.95 with a 192 mile an hour. So I'm not sure why she's gone with the 7.46 dialing, but it doesn't really matter. She can do whatever she likes, pretty much. running the car out the back door, 7:47 with a 7, 173 mile an hour. She did run a 7:47 in qualifying as well, so maybe they just tried something a little bit different, or maybe turned the tune up, maybe ran with the nitrous on that last run, not sure. Alrighty, it looks like we're going to be running Top Sportsman now.
Some of these cars just look unreal.
Both cars on the start line, very well presented. We've got Joshua Boscovich in the Ford XA Coupe, manually shifted. Fontana 410 Cuba on board with the nitrous, taking on Jeffrey Sargent in the Chevy Camaro. Absolutely gorgeous looking race car.
So just seeing the crew in the door of the Sargent car in the rocket lane. Happy now, creeping forward. Both cars getting to staging.
Sargent dialed in with a 787. Boscovich with an 826. So the silver car will get the head start by around about half a second. Boscovich away with an 063. He's taken the win. The Sargent machine has left the red light on the start line. I tell you what, Boscovich's car did a big crab walk to the centre line there.
It went left first and then come back to the right, and we're lucky enough to have that vantage point of looking straight down the track, and we can see the tyre marks on the racetrack. As David Whitmore from Dora Creek comes out in that Grant's Performance 66 Chevy Nova.
This car has one of the best idles of a blown car that you hear. It's just so lumpy. Even when he had his other car, it used to do the same thing. And he let it sit idling down below us, and you just knew it was that car. You didn't have to see the numbers or nothing. You just, yep. You can hear him coming back in that Chevy Nova. Very pro street style. He dialed in with an 810, running for Grant's Performance and Burson's Garage. Matty Clark in the Torque Calibration Services. VL Calais, dialed in with an 870, so 0.6 of a second. Head start going to the blue Calais. Just waiting on both races to move on forward.
And not talking, you can hear that.
Yeah.
Just turn, and it's just like, how good's that? So we'll be quiet.
Just bringing that full stage beam on is Whitmore. Car character front end off the start line. He's in hot pursuit of the VL. Is he going to get there at the bottom of the racetrack? He's in front now, and he'll take... No, he got there first, but broke out. 0.008 of a second too fast, Stu. Handing the win back to Matty Clark. He's going to win the race with a 872 with a 4 and an 870. Unfortunately, Dave Whitmore going a little bit too fast there, handing the win back to Matty Clark in the VL. You can hear the next pair of cars idling below us. I think it's going to be a single. Yes. And that is Thomas Leake, our number 2 qualifier in Top Sportsman.
So with him being number 2 qualifier, does he get choice of lane on when they do a single pass, or do they have to go to a certain lane?
I think he can choose. He can choose whichever lane he wants to run in.
Yep.
Not quite sure why number 1 qualifier didn't get the solo, but that decision obviously made by somebody else. Leake running for PSI Plumbing and Gas Fitting in the Pontiac Grand Am, a very, very well presented race car. Thomas, a second generation racer. Of course, his father, Bruce, running in Pro Stock here today. Leake leaving the line a little bit too early, but he's on his own, so it doesn't matter. 7.92 with a 9. The chute's out. Nice clean pass there. So 9,000ths of a second off the dial in. So he now has the opportunity. He's tested the dial in. And now our number 1 qualifier in Top Sportsman is Paul Partridge. No messing about from the BK engines backed Ford Mustang. Straight down the centre of the lane, 7.91 with an 8 on a 7.95 dial in.
So, Bushy, we're done and dusted, mate. We're out. The big boys are coming in. I'm meaning about the cars on the racetrack, the Top Fuel. The other commentators are coming in. Matty Kavanagh and Rusty Gregory will bring you everything that's happening with the Top Fuel dragsters.
Thank you very much, Stu McCarthy, Steve Bush doing a fantastic job. My name's Rusty Gregory. We're going to be guiding you through this second qualifying session of Top Fuel, which is coming up in the very, very immediate future. Joining me in the commentary box today, Matt Kavanagh. Mate, time to burn some nitro.
Mate, it is absolutely time to burn nitro. Good to see the crowd here at Sydney Dragway. Everybody watching us, of course, on the live stream. And, mate, the weather gods are being kind to us right now. The track is looking absolutely phenomenal. We've seen the times yesterday already in the 380s, and that was in probably not favourable weather. Today, looking even better.
Yeah, and the conditions just keep getting better now that we've got a little bit of temperature out there. It is fairly warm at the moment. I think they'd probably like a little bit more cloud cover coming over, but that being said, conditions still far superior to what we saw yesterday when we had plenty of that wet stuff around. Fortunately, no more threat of that. It is looking absolutely fantastic. So if you are watching either on the Sydney Dragway official YouTube channel or on the Top Fuel Australia Facebook page, if you are in Sydney, you have got no excuse. Get out here, buy a ticket, come on down to Sydney Dragway because we have got one hell of a show. We've got this session and we've still got another 3 full sessions of Top Fuel and our feature categories coming up later on this afternoon.
And of course, the all-run format says it all, doesn't it? It doesn't mean we've got the elimination style when we see the fuel cars drop off or any of the other big categories. It basically means we're going to run all the cars every round until we get down to the 2 best point score after 2 rounds. They'll go for the finals, but we'll still see the other 4 cars run. So it's all happening here at Sydney Dragway. The nitro's fired up. Our first pairing in qualifying session number 2 here at the Burson's Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship. It's going to be the USA. The man from over in the States is made over, Larry Dixon, driving the Andra-sponsored, well, it's a C car there for Rapisada Autosport International.
We'll let them go through their burnout here before we get too carried away. You've actually got a couple of 3-time champions here on the racetrack. Phil Reid and Larry Dixon. Phil Reid, a 3-time Australian champion in Top Fuel. Larry Dixon, 3-time NHRA champion in Top Fuel. So you've got a few guys who have been around the block just a couple of times. Now, Larry Dixon, he's driving this car. It's designated as the C car for the Team Rapisada, but it's actually the newest out of all the cars in the shop. It's been front-halved and back-halved. It's got everything new on this race car. It is a brand spanking race car for all intents and purposes. And Larry Dixon is the lucky man who gets to drive it. Before this, Wayne Newby had only done a handful of passes in this car, just shakedown runs, just to make sure that everything's working A-OK. And let me tell you, it's working A-OK.
They shook a couple of brackets loose yesterday, didn't get a time down. They were up till 1 o'clock this morning repairing this car, actually. So there's a few repairs done on the chassis overnight, but they are good to go today. Larry Dixon alongside, of course, is the man, Phil Reid, like you say, 3-time Australian championship. So many championships in the Jim Reid Racing, though, as the Hydralink drags are ready to go. Don't forget to join their competition to get on the start line a bit later. Knock on the wing, Phil Reid. He's already got down there with a 385. He actually does have a time, second fastest qualifier after qualifying session number 1.
100% pre-staging. You'll hear the idle drop just a little bit. Both cars in. Straight up in tyre smoke for Phil Reid, lifts the supercharger. Larry Dixon, no problems whatsoever, in a 395 at over 300 miles per hour, 301 to be exact. And for Phil Reid, it just absolutely bombed the tyres off the start line, lifted the supercharger belt, or lifted the supercharger, I should say. There was a big pop out of the car as he got to the 60-foot timers, and that's not what they would have been looking for. Fortunately for him, though, he can rely on that previous 385 that he logged yesterday, and he will remain in the number 2 qualifying position. For Larry Dixon, that bumps him up into the number 4 spot. So we have now got 4 cars in the 3-second zone, and let me tell you, the 2 that aren't in the 3-second zone will be by the end of this session, I would suggest.
They didn't get a pass down yesterday, the 2 that are missing, Phil Lamartina and Wayne Newby, and they are coming up very, very shortly. In fact, Phil Lamartina is going to be taking on his new teammate, Shane Olive in the next pairing that we see coming out on track. And I tell you what, the liveries on these cars are absolutely phenomenal. Of course, we've got Shane Olive now coming out in the Burson's Auto Parts Top Fuel Dragster, supporting the Burson's Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship. Phil Lamartina got the new Fuchs livery all over the side of that car as well.
100%. Looks absolutely resplendent out here in the bright sunshine of Sydney Dragway this afternoon. We really have got some sensational conditions. After the last couple of days, it was looking a little bit sketchy, but there is no question marks over it now as we hear the rumble of nitro coming through the tunnel once more. Phil Lamartina will line up in the Aeroflow lane. That Fuchs Lubricants Top Fuel Dragster and his teammate Shane Olive, the rookie. We call him the rookie. He's not a nitro rookie, but he is a Top Fuel rookie. This is only his second ever paired pass in a Top Fuel Dragster.
Short, sharp burnout there for Shane Olive. Let's see how Phil Lamartina goes. Keeps it short and sharp. Remembering this team has gone to 4 championships before from the Lamartina Top Fuel Racing team. So they've got 4 championships. 2 of them Phil has piloted. They've had them with other drivers as well. We'll wait to see. So you know that between them, 2 cars, the additional data now, Shane Olive. And yesterday, Shane Olive got down there with that 389, making 3rd fastest qualifier so far, just out of qualifying session number 1. Now, can he repeat that? They'll be looking to do it. That one actually put a cylinder out early, and we saw the car move to the right-hand side of the lane. It moved around quite a bit as Shane had to steer it. Very new to the dragster style setup. We'll have to see how he goes there. Can he improve on that time? Because the mile an hour wasn't extremely fast for him. It was still up there just shy of 300 miles an hour. Phil Lamartina, though, well, the word from the crew chief, Aaron, was that I said to him, mate, you're just going to swap the body panels over and go out. And this one, he said, you know what? I'm just going to make Phil's car go fast.
And that's a good answer. That's a good answer. Make the other car go faster. 389, and it was an early shut-off. Shane's still getting used to how a Top Fuel Dragster handles. You've got to remember, all of his nitro experience up until this point has been short wheelbase cars, funny cars, or altereds. Now he's in a 300-inch wheelbase Top Fuel Dragster. It's going to take a little while to get his head around it. He's doing a great job so far.
Candles are lit, Phil's up in smoke. It looks like Shane Olive's going to get another run, gets loose down the 1,000 foot. 393 at 310 miles an hour. That is flying for just shy of 500 kilometres an hour, 499 kilometres an hour for Shane Olive. That's a fast run.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Phil Lamartina bombed the tyres in the opposite lane to Phil Reid, what we saw. So obviously the lanes are pretty equal out there. 393 this time around for Shane Olive, well over 300 miles per hour, 310. I think that's now, I think that's pretty close to a PB for Shane in terms of speed. But for Phil Lamartina, again, just hit the tyres just off the start line, straight up in tyre smoke. I should say Shane Olive actually looked like he popped a blower or pushed out a burst panel at the top end of the racetrack. There was a little explosion as he crossed the finish line. Nothing too serious. It's pretty much just par for the course with Top Fuel. You get a little bit of fire and you know you're alive. That's the way it works. So we have got a car stranded right down on the turnout area. It looks like it's Shane Olive. You can see how fire is on the job, just attending to that Burson Auto Parts Top Fuel Dragster.
Can't really miss the Burson Auto Parts on the side of Shane Olive's car, but another fantastic run from him. Not as fast as what he did yesterday, the 389. He's gone 393, but 310 miles an hour. So an improvement of 13 miles an hour, like I say. 499 kilometres an hour for that one. So we can see the Hydrolink dragster there of Phil Reid being towed back. They'll be wanting to get back and turn that car around because we're only a couple of hours away from starting off the Burson's Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship with round number 1 of racing.
Yeah, 100%. And coming up this afternoon, qualifying's great. Qualifying's important, but there's nothing like racing. And racing is where it really comes to the fore. That's when we start handing out the trophies. Once we get that done, you can see Phil Lamartina still on screen right now, just stranded just about 30 metres short of the turnout area down there. So they'll have to tow him off the racetrack. And once he's done, we should fire the next pair up, which, again, this is going to be a great matchup. Wayne Newby has had a less than successful weekend so far, let's be honest. At 10.53, he's only passed down the racetrack. But let me tell you, it's not going to last for long because with the crew that he's got behind him, the might of the Rapisada Autosport International team and young Santino Rapisada doing the tuning on that car, he will not remain in the number 6 position for very long. Let's talk about Peter Gibris, though. Currently number 1 with that 383 from yesterday, off the trailer just quietly, and it was an early shut-off. Didn't even crack 300 miles per hour. It was only around 290. So there is plenty left in that car. And considering only 7 months ago he logged the quickest pass in Australian history, he has got to be a favourite when we go into racing later on this afternoon.
He is extremely humble, Pete Shibris, as he gets out. He said, yeah, it was a half-track run, but it just felt so comfortable in the car. I thought I'd just go a little bit further. Didn't quite take it all the way to the 1,000, but look at the times there. Already number one there qualifying and coming off a recent championship win. So he's definitely got the runs on the board. And remember, he's got 2 crew chiefs here, Ben Patterson, Tim Adams. So double the brain power there. It seems to be working. The brain trust that came in the last season of Top Fuel Racing seems to be carrying over here, and they're definitely getting that car down there. Different conditions today, though. You think with the data they've got behind them, they can make this happen?
I think they can make it happen. You've got to remember, they're both championship-winning crew chiefs now, Tim Adams and Ben Patterson. Ben, obviously, with Darren Morgan previously, now working with the Premier Hire team. And he's got a hell of a brains trust there, a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience when it comes to Top Fuel. And he's got a crew that has really stayed together for a long time. So there's a lot going for this Premier Hire team. But same goes for Wayne Newby over there. He is no pushover these days. This is only qualifying, but he'll be wanting to lay down a really, really solid number as we see Larry Dixon in the Andra Top Fuel Dragster out of the Rapisada Autosport stable down there, just pulling up in front of the crowd. How about putting your hands together, guys? Larry Dixon made it here, last-minute dash to Australia to drive a Top Fuel Dragster for Rapisada Autosport. Not a bad invitation, and I'll tell you what, who wouldn't take him up on the offer?
But you've got to accept an invitation like that too. I mean, he's a champion over there in the States. 3-time world champion over there when it comes to NHRA, and the opportunity to come back and race for Rapisada again like he did in 2017 is fantastic. Now, Wayne Newby, they found some issues with that car yesterday. They had some clutch issues, which is why they didn't get down the racetrack. They were starting that car up at 9:30 last night after replacing everything in that clutch, and it looks like they don't have that noise they had earlier. They're quite happy. They were content. They pulled it down. They prepared it for today. So let's see how Mr. Noobs goes. He's won the championship a couple of times. He has, he's done alcohol championships. He's done plenty of race cars. He's familiar with what it takes to win a Top Fuel championship.
Ooh, ugly burnout for Peter Gibberis. It was like he rolled through the water and it never actually just lit the tyres. And it might have actually been a bit of fuel coming out of the car as well. I can see a little bit of a trail of something right in the centre of the lane behind him. They're shaking the car, trying to get it into reverse down there. I think they may have a bit of an issue with the clutch in this car. They can't get it into reverse. They're shaking it. You can see the officials there trying to get it. Sometimes you can shake the car and just get it to drop into the gear. If they can't get it back, the only option is get Pete to keep his foot on clutch and do it the old-fashioned way. Push the car back. You can see the people power coming down there. But what they need to be careful here is that they don't put too much heat into the car. They don't put too much heat into the engine. And more specifically, make sure that they don't hold up Wayne Newby over in the other lane, because...
Yeah, let's talk about Wayne Newby. If he can't get away, if they've got to sit there for too long, this will really hinder his opportunity when it comes to qualifying. And he'll be looking after what was yesterday not very successful with the clutch issues they had. He'll be really looking to get a time down here. I tell you what, he will not want to be downside outside the 3. Maybe they're just going to have to tell Pete to go down the track. Are they going to let him go?
No, I think Pete's actually shut the car off, so they're going to leave the car there and send Wayne on down the racetrack. That's why the crew have jumped over. So I think the car might have actually locked up out there because they were trying to push it back. They couldn't get it back. They couldn't get it forward. I have a feeling that the car might have actually locked up out there. So Santino Rapisada gives Wayne Newby the signal to go into stage in the Atlantic Oils Top Fuel Drag. So what can he lay down this time around?
Moves around a bit on the start line, counters the lead. Oh no, half track there. Lights the tyres up, still rolls through 4:38 at 1:85, so gets a time down.
Gets a time down, and it actually improves him in the qualifying list as well. 4:38 moves him up to the number 5 spot, so Phil Lamartina currently back there in number 6. You were pointing at the short time there. It didn't catch what it was.
8:29, so that's a pretty impressive 60-foot time, remembering they're doing that in, it's 19 metres in 0.8 of a second.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you consider that we do have full sun on the racetrack at the moment, it is fairly warm out there at the moment. Anything in the 0.82 second mark for a 60-foot time is pretty stout at this time of the day. So for Wayne Newby, although he shut it off early, it's a big step in the right direction for those guys. Unfortunately for Peter Gibberis, they are pushing the car off down there, and I think there's a fair bit of head scratching going on. I can see Ben Patterson standing down there with his hands on his hips just thinking, so what exactly has happened here? It'd be interesting to go and have a chat to those guys, and I think we might have to go and do that a little bit later on, Matty, because it is very rare that you see the Premier Hire Top Fuel Dragster have any kind of issues in terms of reliability. So hopefully that does not hinder them coming into racing this afternoon.
Remembering that's qualifying, though, so it's only a qualifying session number 2. It means he's still going to stay up the top at the moment. Pete Shibris with that 383 they did yesterday, very early on in the day, only 290 miles an hour on what was a planned half-track run, only to 660 foot, but he decided, you know what, I'm just going to take it a little bit further. Didn't quite go the full 1,000. That 900 foot they went and still ran that 383. Leaves him at number 1. Phil Reed with a 385 from yesterday keeps him in position number 2. And then, of course, it's position number 3 there for Shane Olive on his rookie time out, I suppose, when it comes to racing. Now he's licensed in Top Fuel with that 389. There's your top 3 so far. It's going to be an interesting as we go into the all-run format at 4 o'clock today, just a few hours away.
Shane Olive must just be loving life at the moment. He must just be sitting back thinking, you know what, I get to drive a Top Fuel dragster. It's his rookie year. He's already lined up against a couple of champions in the form of Larry Dixon and Phil Lamartina, the boss. He's logged a couple of 3-second runs. He's now gone over 310 mile an hour. It's just a good life. It's a good time to be Shane Olive.
And a great story there. Luke Marsden now stepping up and being the crew chief on that car. So part of the Lamartina trying to get, Luke Marsden's well known around the drag community, but like getting involved in the Top Fuel and the tuning side and becoming that crew chief on that car. It's just getting all of his mates back together, which we saw him race a lot of different style cars in. Big round of applause though as the Fuchs Oils car, lubricants car comes back through of Phil Lamartina and of course Shane Olive in the Burson's Auto Parts Top Fuel dragster as they come back on. Make a round of applause out there in the crowd.
Yeah, fantastic. It's so great to see the liveries on those 2 cars as well. The Fuchs Lubricants car with a brand new look this weekend and also the Burson Auto Parts Top Fuel Dragster. A big welcome to Burson Auto Parts here this weekend. Obviously, he's a naming rights partner for the Australian Top Fuel Championship, but also the naming rights partner for Shane Olive in his rookie season in Top Fuel. He's not doing too bad, that is for sure. But we're not finished with Nitro. We've cleared that car off the top end of the racetrack. We've got a couple more Nitro vehicles coming your way of the 2-wheeled variety. Chris Matheson and John Zara.
Mate, they might only have half the amount of wheels, but they're still well overpowered machines for the chassis.
Half the amount of wheels, at least 3 times the amount of crazy. Yeah. Because it is nuts. What these bikes are, you're looking at up around 2,000 horsepower out of these motorcycles. 2 wheels, you lay over the top of the engine. They are absolutely insane machines and let's face it, let's talk about it. The 5-second mark, it's still on the table. Everyone wants to get it, and you've probably got the 2 front runners in this country out there on the racetrack in this next pair.
Yeah, John Zara up there from Mackay in Queensland has come down the field to wash Mackay Top Fuel bike. And I talked to him last night. They have a few changes on this bike when it comes to the aero. They've changed the wing on the back. A couple of little clutch things they're starting to play around with as well. They just can't quite get the bike down. It's made so much power. As we said, we are making way too much power. It's about controlling it and getting it down the track. Chris Matheson, 7-time champion though from Queensland. Crazy man, done everything when it comes to motorbike riding, and he just fell in love with Top Fuel motorcycle and the Nitro, but he wants the 5-second run. That is what he came to this category for. That's what he wants to achieve.
I love the fact that these motorcycles, you see them actually put their feet on the pegs before the bike even starts moving because they've got that big square rear tyre. These things will stand up on their own without any problem whatsoever. The big smoky burnout across the line. Now, let's talk about Chris Matheson. As you said, went 600 up at the Winter Nationals at Willowbank 7 months ago. In the other lane on that pass was John Zara, who actually threw a chain and hit the wall. Got the wall on that bike. It actually ripped a big hole in the rear end of the bodywork on that bike. John gave the wall a little bit of a touch-up. And the great thing is to see him back out on the racetrack because it did do a fair bit of damage on that bike when he did that. It was only a glancing blow. Great to see him back out on the track. The other thing I want to say is, if you may have seen a video that went up yesterday of a warm-up in John Zara's pit area. It was warming the bike up, gave it a little blip on the throttle, and it actually pushed a head gasket out in the warm-up while they were firing the bike up. That's why we didn't see it yesterday out on the racetrack.
And they actually changed the engine in this bike as well. So it's actually the spare engine in. They said, we're not coming down, we're going to have a spare engine for this meet. Luckily, they've done that. They were working pretty hard yesterday afternoon, did not get their qualifying session in. Then we had all the wetness set in. We couldn't go racing yesterday afternoon. Probably very good for those guys because they were intent on actually rebuilding that bike, making sure everything is ready to go. Like I say, a couple of clutch changes on this one. Chris Matheson sticking with a tried and tested combination. Obviously a few little updates. They're working through some fuel control with the fuel tech. Let's see how they go here. The first run of Top Fuel motorcycle here for Saturday qualifying session number 2.
And unfortunately, an aborted run on both sides of the racetrack there. Never really sounded like either motorcycle was moving in any kind of fashion down there. It sounded like they were really just driving through things, and unfortunately not a representative time recorded for either competitor there, so we'll have to wait and see what happens this afternoon. But for those guys, at least I'll get some data on the racetrack, and that's always important, Matty.
Yeah, track looking like it's got a fair bit of bite in it actually today, considering the amount of sun we've got on it, the bite that the guys are getting. And you're right, they sort of revved there, they stayed there. They didn't really launch like we expect to. Chris Matheson there, once it started to stand up on the tyre, you saw that bike get very loose. Tried to keep it off the centre line, just did that. John Zara off it very early, so we're not going to see that pass now, but the data that's coming through, hopefully, we're going to see that. Remembering they're in an all-run format as well. We will see every bike out here 3 times tonight. It's going to be a huge show. We've got the FMX bike shows they're setting up over there, so we're going to have them, the Freestyle Kings, doing the thing. We've got drift demonstrations. Of course, we've got the fireworks later tonight, and we're going to kick that off with some burnouts as well.
Absolutely. That's your jam, isn't it, Matty?
Mate, I'm there. Straight off of Summer Nats, I'm ready to go.
Absolutely. He's in form. He's in form. That's the main thing. So we've, as you said, we've got Top Bike on now. We've got Pro Mod coming up in a little while. After Pro Mod, if you are watching on the live stream on the Top Fuel Australia page, we will be ending the stream there. If you want to keep on watching, head over to the Sydney Dragway official Facebook page, and then this afternoon we will be going live on 7+ and also on the Top Fuel Australia page.
But 4 o'clock, mate, be here. If you're in Sydney, be here.
Absolutely. If you are in Sydney, you've still got time. Jump in the car, come out here and park in our brand new car parks, the bitumen car parks that we got only a matter of metres from the entryway to Sydney Dragway. We've got it sorted here now. This is without a doubt one of the best drag racing venues in the world. Certainly the premier drag racing venue here in Australia.
Mate, limited edition T-shirts. You can only get them if you come to the track and buy them from the merchandise stand. Very, very limited numbers. You have to be here.
And you can only get Matty to sign it if you're at the racetrack.
You got to be here to get them signed by your favourite racer or commentator. Danny Rickard there in the Aeroflow lane is about to get underway with the burnout, of course, from Rickfield Trucks Repairs in South Australia. Just rolls onto that one. Mr. Rickard there, of course, he came out in Top Bike in 2019, competed in competition bike and done a lot of the country on this Harley Davidson, but just loving being in this field of Top Bike here, making the numbers up. Of course, ran an 8.111 yesterday. Can dip into the 7-second zone alongside Rob Cassar. Of course, on the Kawasaki from Victoria. A little bit different, this bike. This one is nitrous powered.
Yeah, it's a bit of a different combination to what we're used to seeing. The 709, a PB, as you said, 185 miles per hour. Danny Rickard, we didn't see a real representative pass from him yesterday, an 8.1, 159 miles per hour. Still a bit of work left to do. You'd expect to see this bike well and truly down into the deep second, maybe even the high 6-second zone, all things going well.
Cassar gets away nicely on this run. It's looking good from the Kawasaki. Runs it down, goes 7.15 at 182, so a 7.15 for Rob Cassar.
Solid pass in the conditions, and the heat is going to hurt the nitrous bike as well. That's the other thing to remember. So certainly a solid pass there, and we've still got more coming on through. Speaking of more nitrous, that indeed is young Lockyer Island riding the bike owned by Rod Barchet. And nitrous assisted bike, this one didn't have a huge amount of luck yesterday, unfortunately. Just didn't make it to the start line, but hopefully everything is A-OK this time around. Hopefully they've got their issues sorted. I guess that's what qualifying is for. We haven't had a huge amount of testing coming up to this event because of the unfortunate weather patterns that we've been having here in Sydney. And for Lockyer Island, he should be A-OK. And hopefully for him, he'll be able to lay down a decent pass this time around.
So Top Fuel bike on track for the qualifying session number 2 here at the Burson's Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship. It's a glorious Saturday. The crowds are rolled in here at Sydney, and Lockyer Island about to hit the track last. Yesterday didn't go to plan in qualifying session number 1. Bit of work for the team. They had to work on the bike overnight to try and get this repaired and back out for today, but they're obviously hoping for a good run this time out. They want to get some data on the bike before they head into the all-run format. Sometimes in Top Fuel bike, through to the explosiveness of the nitro, it's very hard to get them down. You just need to get some times on the board. Oh, rolls the beams, unfortunately, and it's a backfire.
Oof. He's riding that thing like a bucking bronco down there, Lockyer Island. It did roll the beam, so he's not going to get any kind of elapsed time or a time card here. So you saw the red lights come on before the tree was even activated, so that's unfortunate for him. But they were just trying to get some kind of clean data on the racetrack, I would suggest. Unfortunately, didn't make it clean, but hopefully they'll get that thing back for the first round of racing a little bit later on this afternoon. It is almost time to move into Pro Mod now, and there is nothing like a bit of Pro Mod in the afternoon. And one of my favourite cars is coming up next, this Camaro of Jeremy Callahan. How tidy is this car, Matty Cav?
Mate, the Z28 body style on this thing, it is a piece of work. They haven't even had a chance to turn the boost up on this yet, remembering that Jeremy Callahan has only had 2 races since they're building this car and 2 wins in those races. So can he make it 3 out of 3 this weekend?
He's doing okay.
He's doing all right.
Nice big burnout from Peter Lovering, the 55 Chevy. Jeremy Callahan, as you touched on, twin turbocharged combination in this one. Now remember, the aim of the game is 585. We do run on the index here with Pro Mod just to keep the playing field level. 585 is the number that these guys are all trying to run as close to as they can.
Very different. You can either be in the... There's 2 ways you can come in, or there's 3 ways you can come into Pro Mod racing. You're either a nitrous person, which we don't have here this weekend. You're a black belt guy, which means you've got the blower on top. Or you're coming in with the turbos, and I love the banter that all these teams have between the turbo guys and the black belts, don't we? Of course, then you got the bottle babies.
The bottle babies, the turbo teddies, and the blower boys. That's the way it is.
Yeah, mate, the banter is fantastic. I see Joe Marino touching a couple of turbo cars, really helping the boys. I said, what are you doing, mate? You're a black belt guy. You can't help these turbos. They don't need any help. They can drive around you. Like, let's have a look at this. Jeremy Callahan, though, of course, got the Proline Racing 481X on board. Big 106mm turbos hanging off that. They are huge, which is what we see here in the Pro Mod style. Like say, 585 is the index. Ran a 591 earlier, and it was a pretty soft run. They're not even putting all the power in. They're telling me they've only got about 52 pounds of boost in this, which we know, talking to some of the engine builders, they don't come alive till about 70, which is crazy to think of that.
Yeah,
and
this car can run well and truly quicker than the 585 index.
They're not even locking the converter up yet.
Yeah.
So, look, let's watch this one. Can you get the 585? That's what we're looking for here in Pro Mod this weekend. Deep stage to Lovering as they get underway. Nice and smooth, and Callahan moves around a bit. Lovering towards the centre line. Callahan, 589, does it nicely in qualifying session number 2.
653 is a good improvement as well from Peter Lovering. You can see 206 miles per hour on the board, 251 on the boards for Jeremy Callahan. So that's a big step in the right direction for Jeremy Callahan. And, yeah, doing an absolutely fantastic job in that car. It just looks like it's doing it easy. It's just going right down the centre of the racetrack. Yeah, and let me tell you, it's not easy to do what they're doing with it, but they are just making it look so smooth out there.
It's all about winning races. And like I say, he's 2 from 2. Is he going to come here to the Burson's Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship and take that win as well? Imagine that. 3 different wins, 3 different series in 3 races.
It's fair effort.
That would be a story to talk about, wouldn't it?
Fair effort. Speaking of another racer, in fact, another pair of racers who were...
Look, Joe loves winning, Joe Marino in that Corvette. He absolutely loves winning, but he loves the crowd more. How was that burnout there from Joe Marino?
He just loves winning the burnout competition. I know that one.
Is he in the burnout show later?
Quite possibly.
Quite possibly.
I wouldn't be surprised to see this Corvette out there on the burnout pad, but Zoran Gadjic in the Gas Racing Elite Race Parts Ford Mustang over there in the Aeroflow lane is another one. Both of these guys have supported the Pro Mod bracket since its inception in this country. 585 is index. If anyone's watching from overseas, particularly in the United States, I know you're probably looking at it thinking, Pro Mod, why are we running on an index? Well, the whole idea is to keep it a level playing field. It's still a relatively new concept here in Australia, and we're still sort of ironing out the bugs. At the moment, 585 is the index that they're running on. Who knows what it's going to be later on, but I can tell you that they will run 3 rounds of racing this afternoon. We'll award the winner, and then we're going to have the shootout, which is basically bring it out and turn the wick up, boys, and see how fast you can go.
We wait till the round's run and done, and then we're just going to let them turn it up and see if we can get some 540s out there this weekend. Of course, you can see Zoran Gadjic in the Gas Racing Ford Mustang, of course, Hemi-powered twin turbo. So, look, you've got a Hemi and a Ford, mate. Like, I suppose it's about going fast. What are the rules in Pro Mod for the people out there in the stands? Well, there's a couple of things. Doors must open, car must go fast.
Yep, that's pretty much it. Pretty much it. That and the safety rules, and that's really all you have to play by. It doesn't really matter other than that. What engine combination? We've seen 6 cylinders run in it. We've seen turbocharged cars, supercharged cars. We've seen rotaries run in it. It's literally run what you brung as long as it's got doors. Both cars in pre-stage now. You'll hear the revs start to build. Joe Marino will go and put it on the 2-step. Red light for Zoran Gajic. That's not going to matter too much in qualifying. Gajic's on a nice run here. 584 with a 4. That's right on the money for him. 257 miles per hour. 607 for Joe Marina at 241. That's a solid pass from him as well. Knocking on the door of that 5-second run for Joe Marina. And solid pass there from the Promod boys.
Mate, another solid pass. Like I say, Joe Marina backs up after running 6.0 this morning, actually, because they didn't get qualifying yesterday. Remember, they got... unfortunately, it all ended before they could get out there, so they've got 5 runs to do today, or 6 if they come out and they just want to run the horsepower in. Joe Marino, those 6.0s, but we know he's got a bit more. Zoran Gajic, though, that is soft off the line, 257 across the line. That's making it up in the back half of the track.
Now, this is a hell of a matchup that we've got up next. Greg Sacharidis in the black and orange Mustang down here, the Ice Group CV Performance sponsored car. He's going to be taking on Robert Campese. Now, these cars are unique in the fact that these 2 cars are the only 2 turbo cars that have gone over 270 miles per hour and also over into the 550s in this country. It's quite remarkable when you look at what these 2 cars have done. And they're the 2 fastest door cars in Australia right now. So absolutely. Obviously, Greg Mauler there, Sacharidis there in the Ice Group car. That is your fastest door car in Australia. Rob Campese, the second fastest. Both of them have way too much horsepower. It's all about how they transition that horsepower down to the racetrack. Very different for Rob Campese. He's doing this obviously with the big block Ford. It's got Hemi heads on it. The big 670 cube Moran racing engine there. Big turbos as well, making well over 5,000 horsepower. Of course, SCF race cars in Australia. Craig Burns doing a lot of the work on the chassis on that one too to just help them get through, and a little bit of banter going on in the pits before. He's pretty keen on racing today, Craig Burns and the boys. And then, of course, you come over here. Of course, we see Greg Sacharidis, the CMV Performance setup, the Mustang, the twin-turbo Proline racing engine. We know those motors are capable of over 5,000 horsepower as well. So very different going down different paths. But the problem we got with Sacharidis is, and I talked to his crew and I say, you got to run 585. They said, it's not getting the car to run 585. We can slow it down. It's getting the driver to slow down. Yep.
He loves to go fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And that sounds about right for Greg Sacharidis. And he's such a cool dude. You talk to him, he's just laid back, sort of just a real gentleman. But when he gets in this car, he drives the thing like an absolute animal. Now, it looks to me like Rob Campese's actually staged this thing up a little bit crooked. He's pointing at the Christmas tree. He's bumped through the beams. That is not what he wants. He's not going to log a pass here in qualifying, or at least in this session.
Mate, they'll get something on the data logger.
Yeah, they'll get something on the logger, but still a 593 for Greg Sacharidis. I was expecting that to be a little bit quicker. Only 102 to the 60-foot timers. That thing has been well down into the 0.9. So, yeah, certainly winding it back a bit to run on that 85 index, a 585 index. And still, good way to end Pro Mod there. And we have got Pro Stock coming up next.
So Pro Stock about to hit your screens very shortly for everyone here at the track.
Absolutely. And for anybody watching on the Top Fuel Australia page, thank you for tuning in. We'll be back a little bit later on. We're going to end the stream shortly for you guys. But for everyone, if you do want to keep watching, head over to the Sydney Dragway official YouTube channel right now. We are still streaming over there. And we'll be back a little bit later on this afternoon on the TFA page for the opening ceremony this afternoon and all the action from round 1 from the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship here at Sydney Dragway. So we do have Pro Stock coming up in the very near future, and I can see Clint George down there. He'll be lining up against Chris Soldatis. First pair out in the sunshine here, and Clint George, I was pleasantly surprised to see that 705 from him last night. That was a great run.
Well, when he first came out in the conditions yesterday, we thought naturally aspirated cars, 400 cubic inches especially, so, you know, a little bit smaller than what we see over in the United States, but they struggle with the humidity there. They're looking for optimum air to make that little bit of extra horsepower, extra 10 or 20 horsepower could be the difference there. So we were surprised to see some 6.9s. So when he came out first run, ran a 7.0, we thought, mate, we're going to see a heap of 7.0s here. But they impressed us. Crystal Data's one of those. 694 with a 1 is why he is number 1 qualifier at the moment. It just 5,000ths of a second over Rob Deckard. So what will today bring? It's a lot warmer, like you say. The sun is out, but the air, surely the dropper rate out there, I'd love to get a weather station and find out if that has just dried out a little bit for these guys.
Yeah, well, if you want to find out, you can head across to the Sydney Dragway website. We've got all the racer resources on there. You can find out exactly what the weather's doing, and we might just do that. Clint George, racing for Long Jetty Auto Engineering in this Pontiac GXP. He's been a long-time Superstock racer, Clint George. Raced this car in Superstock for a while. and decided to take the jump and leap into pro stock, and it's a whole new world when you get into this kind of realm. But he's been doing a great job. He's only got a handful of events under his belt, and to log a 7:05 here today, that's been great. Chris Soldatis, who's been running for a very long time, as you said, is the #1 qualifier as it stands at the moment, 6:94, 196 miles per hour last night. Did it side by side with Rob Deckert, and I actually think for the pro stock guys, conditions might actually be a little bit worse right now than what they were last night.
Yeah, possibly there. I mean, obviously, Crystal Data has got Peter Ridgway there, obviously helping out with the crew, who's got multiple championships under his belt when it comes to pro stock over the years, so a lot of experience there. Like you say, Clint George was a rookie in 2019, and he's going to have to try and get this Pontiac GXP. A little bit more youth on his side, I suppose. Have to have a look at those lights. Remember, it is qualifying session, so it's not racing yet. Qualifying session. Needs to see if he can put himself up the ladder there. He's currently #3 with that 7:05 at 193 miles an hour, and he is good to go. Clint George, keen. Got the pre-stage lights on. Crystal Data, they're just doing the final checks in the car. Remembering 5-speed transmissions in these things, and they have to manually shift them. So they're going to go through the first 3 gears in the first, just over 100 foot of the track.
Yeah. Now, Chris Soldatis has really taken his time coming into stage here. Like, really taking his time. Clint George has been patiently waiting in pre-stage for quite some time. And I know Clint probably won't be rattled by it. He's been racing for a very, very long time. But that being said, it's still putting heat into everything. It's still... Well, he's got it up on the 2-step already. It's actually pulled through the beams. And for Chris Soldatis, took a long time coming into stage. And I think for Clint George, his gentlemanly ways actually came back to bite him there. A 698 at 184 miles per hour. For Clint George, I feel pretty bad for him because he was waiting for a long, long time for Chris Soldatis to come into stage. And, yeah, I think the clutch leg might have just got a little bit tired there. And as he brought the revs up, it just started creeping through the beams. And I guess that's the game you play when you try and wait. But Chris Soldatis, 698, 184 miles per hour, speed down. So only 184.
Yeah, I was looking at those numbers actually, and that's what I was going to say. The mile per hour down on that one, only 184. And if you put that in terms, it's just shy of 300 kilometres an hour. But he did 196 miles an hour yesterday. So just to put that in perspective, he's really only gone a 400th of a second slower, but he's dropped himself 12 mile per hour. So that's when you see him not quite running the full quarter mile.
Yeah, and sometimes that indicates he might have just got off it at the other end of the racetrack. Sometimes it may have indicated that maybe the engine was going away at the other end of the racetrack. I hope that's not the case because we've still got plenty of racing to do here this afternoon. But either way, I think we are pretty much set to start firing up the next pair. Indeed we are, and it is a pair of Pontiac GXPs. It's Bruce Leake in the blue car, the Be All Plumbing Pontiac GXP from Canberra, taking over, or I should say from down around the ACT area. He's technically in New South Wales, but
he's just only across the border.
He's only just over the border.
We can throw stones at him.
Exactly. Rob Deckett from Victoria in the unique body smash repairs Pontiac GXP. ETS Racing Fuels, Pluckers Racecraft, Outlaw Images, and Ridgeway Motorsports on board for him. Now, Bruce Leake struggling to get this car through the burnout procedure down here. He did roll through the water, came to a stop for quite a long time before he tried to do the burnout. I'm wondering maybe if the water dried up because it is quite warm outside today.
It is very, very warm outside today, and of course what you will see in the water box here is a lot of the crews will actually come and spray the water themselves because they know whether they want a lot of water in the water box or whether they don't want too much. But then obviously the crew are getting in there and having a look at Bruce's car, and they'll be having a bit of a conversation with him. Maybe they're not going to risk it this time. He didn't really get down the track yesterday either. Yeah. 17-second pass, so that's not where he wanted to be. Rob Deckett, on the other hand, is our second fastest qualifier, 6.94 with a 6. Like I say, he was only 5,000 a second off Chris Soldatis, 196 miles an hour as well. So how will he go? Will he be on a similar time? We'll see a high 6 out of him today to back that up, and it's a pretty good sign there for the Ridgeway Motorsports engines.
Yeah, so Bruce Leake's been shut off down there. He's got the finger across the throat sign, the the universal, I should say, sign for shut it on down and push it back. Probably for the best, to be honest, anyway, because I think when he tried to do that burnout, he probably would have taken a bunch off the clutch, put a lot of heat into it. So they'll take that thing back to the pits. Rob Deckett, on the other hand, 101 to the 60-foot timers. This is probably going to be another high 6-second pass, I would suggest. 696 eager, 195 miles per hour through the top end of the racetrack. Quick for the session, 696, 195. So they definitely do have some consistency. But I think we were right when we were saying that conditions not as good now as what they were yesterday for the Pro Stock cars specifically.
It definitely has that just a little bit of horsepower out of him. You can tell that at the top end. But I think Rob Decker's probably the closest comparison we've seen between yesterday and today. We could hear that. He ran that all the way down the track. So that's going to be our comparisons there. I think Crystal Dartis maybe just offered a little bit early, just saving it just a little bit as we come into the all-run format. They're going to be 1 and 2 so far. Next up, though, we've got a couple of names to come out, and we've still got Nino Cavallo to come out, who didn't get a rundown yesterday. It's going to be really interesting. Next up, though, Daryl Stephen taking on Rick Chilton.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, Nino Cavallo didn't get that run down the racetrack last night. Was shut down with a little bit of an oil leak. I think it came out of the breather from what I understand. It was only very small, but discretion always the better part of valor when it comes to putting these cars down the racetrack whenever you've got any kind of fluid coming out of them. Let's talk about Rick Chilton, because he really stepped up when he purchased this car, the Dodge Avenger. Purchased this car from Wayne Daly last year while he was leading the championship, while Wayne was leading the championship with this car. So this thing has got the best of everything. It is a solid performer when it comes to Pro Stock. And then you've got the Mustang over there of Daryl Stephen, which has got pretty much all the latest chassis technology in it. It is a very, very competitive car, and has had some very encouraging early numbers in terms of the incremental times that we've seen. Still haven't quite seen this car go all the way across the finish line under power, but I'm sure it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, I suppose when it comes to Daryl Stephen there, we haven't seen him do too many passes in the Pro Stock category there. We know he's got a number of race cars. He's done plenty of passes down the drag strip, but a new combination, like I say, you've got to get through those gears so quickly. You have to be so much precision to get it down the track. So we'll see how he goes. It was a 778 yesterday. He actually got the car down. It wasn't neat, but he got it down there. Of course, on board for him was Atlantic Oils, Polito's Mechanical Services, CC Royal Vending Equipment, helping out Daryl Stephen. Rick Chilton, though, from Lulu and Sis Cakes and Cookie, and Ross & Co Electrical, the Dodge Avenger, like you say, the best of everything on board. He's going to come out. Yesterday, he didn't get a run down there, a representative time, so we'll have to see how Chilton goes, but he does have a good car. The best way for him to retire out of Pro Stock was he bought this car. He basically retired out of Pro Stock, got rid of all of his gear, but this was too good. I mean, how do you go when it's a championship, it's leading the championship leader says, no, mate, I'm getting a new car, and it's there. The opportunity to buy, you can't say no.
You can't say no. Old drag racers, they never retire. They just go away for a little while and then they come back to it. That's the way it works. So Daryl Stephen in the Aeroflow lane, great looking car, this Ford Mustang, racing for Atlantic Oils, Polito's Mechanical Services, and CC Royal Vending Equipment.
Yeah, Rick Chilton's only done a couple of race meets in this car since owning it. Started back in May last year, got to internationals. Let's see how they go. The lights are up. Launch is nice from both cars here. They're side by side as they go past the half-track markers. Stevens there goes 720 at 190 miles an hour and a 733 for Chilton. 153 offered a little bit early.
Yeah, absolutely. But still plenty of data on the racetrack. Still over 190 mile an hour for Daryl Stevens. So definitely moving in the right direction for him. Rick Chilton, very early shut off, only 153 at the stripe. 733, solid pass for him. And at the moment, the way the qualifying ladder stands is Chris Soldatis, Rob Deckert, Clint George, Mario Polito holding down the top 4 spots. Daryl Stephen, Rick Chilton and Bruce Leake in the bottom half of the field. And we're yet to see the man that's coming up next, Nino Cavallo, log a competitive pass. So this will actually make 8 cars that have attempted to qualify here this weekend.
Remembering he won last time out here in Sydney back in May in 2021. It was a fairly emotional day for him. It was good to see the family back. They're back into racing, but Nino has come up from Victoria, keen to get some laps on the car, because I don't think we've actually seen this car race since then.
I don't think so, no. I don't think so. So beautifully presented car, this one, another Dodge Avenger out of Narra Warren in Victoria.
Well, you know what they say, if it's not Mopar, it's below par. So let's bring it out.
Oh, you're starting to sound like Les.
Oh yeah, where is Mopar Les this weekend?
Yeah,
he'll be loving that one if he's watching the stream.
I'm sure he's watching the stream. Big hello to everyone who's watching online. I know there's quite a few people. I think they might be watching from the United States, a little bit confused as to what's going on with these Pro Stock cars. These cars are 100 cubes less than the NHRA Pro Stock cars, okay? So that's
we
one
took
thing
away
to remember.
20% of their cubes.
That's right. So NHRA 500 cubes, Australian Pro Stock 400 cubic inches. We still run the carbs. And over in the States, obviously, they still run they run fuel injection now. So there's a couple of little differences, and that's why our Pro Stock cars are generally around the 590 mark. And unfortunately for Nino Cavallo, it looks like he's getting the shut-off signal down there, and the car's going to be pushed back again. We
love to see these things under horsepower, not human power.
Yeah,
that's unfortunate for him, and that's 2 runs in a row. Luckily, the all-run format. We'll have to see there because we do have 9 cars in Pro Stock. So let's hope that we can get Nino back out. The all-run format, of course, this car has been super consistent when he come out in May, and it was right up there when it comes to the times as well. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what happens.
I'm starting to wonder if it's a bit of a surge issue because as the car comes to a stop, it seems to be that they're finding whatever it is that's wrong with it as the car comes to a stop.
Yesterday, I believe, was one of the catch cans maybe. When they've come in, they've started to back up. It started to just a bit of overflow from one of the catch cans. That might have been what was shut down for fluid yesterday.
Yeah.
Obviously, a fairly easy fix, and it's something that sort of happens with the car as they fill those up. But this time around, that looks more mechanical because they've shut that down early. We don't see any of the mops out on track. So that seems to be more of a mechanical issue. Hopefully, they can go back. And remembering 7 months without racing the car, you've got to get back into these things. These are drivers' car too. They're not intuitive.
No.
You've got to get there and you've really got to steer the car. You've got to do the gears. You've got to go through everything, the clutch pedal, everything.
Oh, 100%. These are a driver's car. You really have to get these things down the racetrack, be on top of them, know exactly when everything's going to happen, and just be in tune with what's going on because they are not an easy thing to drive, that is for sure. Looks like we are going to move into Western Weekender Junior Dragster very, very shortly. I can see the tyres going into place down there at the turnout area at the finish line, so I would suggest Junior Dragster is not too far away.
Look, you might have a couple of moments here because you can get your limited edition T-shirts up there at the merchandise stand, just up at the top of the hill here in the corner. If you want to go up there and check out the Sydney Dragway merchandise stand, your limited edition Burson's Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship T-shirts are available only here at the track. You need to buy them today. It's a good opportunity to grab those ones, and I do believe I've just got a message saying that they are starting to sell. So if you want a certain size, I know limited sizes. If you are of a unique size, I would get up there and get one very quickly.
Absolutely. Matty Cav, available for autographs later on. We'll be setting up a stall for him.
Yeah, and photos.
Do you charge or not?
Look, it depends. If you ask me nicely, probably not.
There might be at least one person who wants an
at least
autograph
one
and a
person.
photo.
Look, after work today, I will take beverages for payment.
There you go. He's easily pleased. Junior Dragster coming out now, pushing through the tunnel. Big thank you to all of our officials that are here today working out there in the sun, all of our fire crew especially. Those guys have got one of the hardest jobs out there in the fire gear all day long, out there in the blazing heat, and they jump into action whenever is required. There is never any hesitation, so a massive thank you to them. Thank you to all of our officials. Thank you to all of the rest of the crew here from Sydney Dragway out there, from registration to our bracket marshals to our gate staff to pretty much everybody. We can't do any of this without them, and we do say a massive thank you to them every single time we get to go racing.
I do love the Burson's Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship. Just want to be very inclusive of a lot of people. We've got the Australian Drift Club down here. I can see Mr. Billick's down there with a couple of the boys, and a couple from Advan. Of course, I can see Adam Burgess down there and the HMAS. Look, the big Falcon's probably going to throw us around with some drift demonstrations. They're getting ready to go down there. We've got the FMX Freestyle Kings as well. They're going to be out there doing some flips and stuff on their bikes. And, of course, later on tonight, we're going to finish the show off after all the Top Fuel racing and after all the Pro Mod guys and after all the racing we've had, just to give you that nice little fuzzy feeling when you go home. We're going to have some burnouts and fireworks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the way to do it. We've got everything going on here at Sydney Dragway. I'm really looking forward to the Freestyle Kings a little bit later on. You can see the ramp set up there over there on the grass. And I'm looking at the angle of attack on that launch ramp. And that looks pretty steep. I keep getting told that I'm apparently going out there and doing it. I'm starting to have some second thoughts. I might just defer to the professionals.
I think you're between them. They're jumping over you, aren't they?
Oh, is that what's happening?
Yeah, look, we can put you at risk. You've signed your life away. You've got a band on. You've signed your life away.
We might need a bigger ramp if they're jumping over me.
Oh, look, here we go. Of course, good to see the big Falcons out there. The Australian Drift Club getting behind here at the Burson's Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship. They'll be getting around doing some figure eight demonstrations and things like that out in the burnout pad very shortly for you, of course. We want to keep the entertainment here at Sydney Dragway. We love having the crowd. How good is it in the house today? So many people enjoying this beautiful weather Sydney's put on for us and enjoying the racing that is back in 2022.
100%. It's great to be back running events. It's great to be back running majors. And, yeah, it's been a long time between drinks. May last year was the last time we did have a major event in terms of top fuel at the venue. Obviously, we run all sorts of different events here at Sydney Dragway, including our weekly Aeroflow Race for Real events. If you are sitting up there in the grandstands and you're thinking, you know what, I want to come out and have a crack at this drag racing thing, how can I do it? Well, literally all you need to do is grab a helmet, grab your street car, come out here on a Wednesday night. We do it every single Wednesday night. You can run your car up and down this race. Well, not up and down, just straight down the racetrack every single Wednesday night. It is a fantastic time. And yeah, check out the Sydney Dragway website for all the information on that and what you need to do. But tickets are on sale right now for this week's event coming up this Wednesday.
So a quick rundown of what we had earlier. Of course, top fuel looks like our #1 qualifier is going to be Pete Shibboleth from yesterday, who ran that gorgeous 383 there on just a soft bit of run at 290 mile an hour. Second's going to be Phil Reed on that 385, and then a 389 from Shane Olive, your top three. Not quite there today. We saw a couple of 3-second passes there in the 390s. Larry Dixon just outside that. Looks like he's been #4 with the 395 at only 301 mile, well, only 301 mile an hour, but you know, that's all. So there's how he goes. We're running about 4 o'clock today. So tell your family and friends you've still got time to get down here. 4 o'clock today is when we're going to kick things off. Probably a bit earlier for our opening ceremony. Of course, we're going to have our welcome to country, our national anthem, all that stuff. Get down here. I tell you what, you've got a huge car park. Get down here by 3 o'clock. Get in the gates. Come down. Enjoy the festivities, which is the Burson's Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship.
We have got Junior Dragster on track now, presented by Western Weekender, Alira Cartham and Daniel Carranza. 800 the dial-in for Alira Cartham, 803 for Daniel Carranza. So it's almost a heads-up race. But I tell you what, Alira Cartham is holding a 1/10 of a second up her sleeve here. And I don't think she's going to be headed. An 811 gets the win over an 807. It's actually a whole shot win there. Margin of victory, only 0.03 of a second at the finish line. And the racer from Victoria moves on to the next round of racing.
Remember, this is the second round of the Western Weekender Junior Drags. We've already had round 1 of eliminations as they get through. A lot of Junior Drags to get through today. It's great to see the next era of racing starting here. We see all the young drivers getting behind the Junior Drags as they normally evolve. They get into things like Super Street, or some step right up into competition vehicles, but little methanol power Briggs and Strattons make a lot more horsepower than you think.
100%. They'll throw you grass from here to the other side of the street, these ones. Archie Boscovich, the racer from Lakesland in New South Wales, a Junior Dragster. That looks like the Don Garlett's replica car down there. Josh Burtonshaw, the DJ Haulage JD, the beautiful green car down there, racing in the Aeroflow lane. 795 the dial in for Josh Burtonshaw. Archie Boscovich, being one of the younger kids in the field, is limited in terms of how quick he can run. A 12.20 is the dial in for him. And he will see what he can come up with here. Always sharp on the tree is young Archie, though.
Like you say, comes from a drag racing family, bit of pedigree there.
008 on the tree, how's that? It's almost a commentator's curse, not quite. He's actually holding a bunch up his sleeve. 0.125 is a lazy reaction time from Josh Burtonshaw. And indeed, Archie Boscovich gets the win at 12.32 over the 12.20 dial-in, a 7.98 on a 7.95. Just gave up too much on the start line.
I really love how the families come together when it comes to juniors. The big shake of the hands, the hug afterwards when they come down and they celebrate. Doesn't matter win or lose, they celebrate the kids going or the drivers going through to the next round. This time, Tegan Smith's going to come out in our rocket lane. 7.97 is the dial-in, just below the 8-second. Well, thanks to Power Cruise Promotions, Jetflow Plumbing, Speedy Diffs, APM and JM Auto Repairs. Claire Little from Forbes. Well, thanks to Mum and Dad, done the trip down, of course, hanging out with the uncle who's normally racing in our Super Street category. They like to come down. They've done so many trips down here. I reckon their car and their trailer know the trip down from Forbes.
Absolutely.
They can do it with their eyes closed.
100%. They just get on the freeway and hit cruise control. Car knows where to go. Claire Little dialing in with an 800 Tegan Smith and a 7.97. So it's actually going to be pretty tight on the Christmas tree. Almost a heads-up race. Won't be able to see too much difference, but a red light from Tegan Smith, 032 red light, and an 052 green for Claire Little. She will get the win. This time around, 804 on the 800. She actually looks pretty good coming into the later rounds of racing here as we get towards the pointy end of the field for Junior Drags. Tegan Smith, the 7.99 and 7.97, not quite enough this time around.
Claire Little, the family will be very happy that she's going through a number of wins here at Sydney Dragway, doing quite quite a reliable job, I would say, in the junior drags. Just sticking to that dial in, just getting it done, cutting a nice light. So it's all that needs to happen there for Claire Little. Next up, though, looks like it's going to be young Lamatina, Ross Lamatina coming out from Victoria. Of course, sponsored by Rocky Lamatina and Sons. Having the, of course, the orange on the junior dragster. Family of farmers, mainly known for their carrots.
Got the solo pass this time around as well. Does young Ross.
And do we have an exhibition top fuel pass possibly coming out? We do have a spare car. Rapasada, you know, they've got 3 cars here this weekend, and they're trying to get some data together, so they are going to be running the 3rd car down here. Ross Lamatina, they comes forward. Junior drags the time, all thanks to the Western Weekender. $7.99 dial in. Looks like it might be our last junior dragster in this 2nd round of racing here, all thanks to the Western Weekender. And the final signal there from the crew. Ross Lamatina, well, can he get the goods? He's going to be on a solo run, which means get through to the next round very easily, but the $7.99 dial-in is going to be the interesting factor. Can he back it up? It's a little bit warm out there at the moment. Finite tuning on these little engines and cars. Does a red light 004 on the wrong side. Doesn't matter on the solo run, still going to go through. Goes 8.01 with a 0 at 81 miles an hour. So 8.01, 81.28 miles an hour for Ross Lamatina. Gets down there, and of course we'll progress to the next round. Good to see Phil's out there at the moment, just making sure he gets down there. Looking for some advice, do you reckon? Just seeing if that's he's just getting in the mojo.
Quite possibly. Might just want to be getting a feel for things, and I guess that's a testament to the Lamatina top fuel team, because Phil can come out here and do what he needs to do out here, know that everything's going right back there at the pit area, and despite things probably not going exactly to plan for Phil so far this weekend, still
he's
having a good weekend for his son.
He's saving it for the racing, mate. That's what he's doing.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
All right, we've got bikereview.com.au modified bike coming up very, very shortly. Just need to clear off the tyre bundles at the top end of the racetrack, and we should be able to be moving into it. And I believe that we will also have an exhibition pass coming up very, very shortly for one of the Rapasada Autosport International cars. Wayne Newby will be driving this time around. So there will be an exhibition pass coming up. Not part of the Top Fuel Series, not part of the Top Fuel Championship, but just an exhibition pass from one of the other cars that they've got in the shop over there. I mean, if you've got a car that's ready to go, you may as well bring it out and run it.
We're down a driver, but we're not down a car and crew. That's all we're saying. If we've got a car there, we're at the Burson's Auto Part Australian Top Fuel Championship. We've got a Top Fuel car that's in a garage with a crew prepared to go. We'll find a driver and we'll let her do exhibition passes.
And how good is it to be Wayne Newby at the moment when you just go, hey, mate, can you come over and just drive this other Top Fuel car that we've got here in addition to the one that you're driving already? Not a bad life.
He doesn't need the seat time, but why not? And look, he hasn't really got a good time down yet, Noob. So, you know, it's not that he needs the time in the seat, but it's definitely he might get a feel for something. They might find some data there, which will help him out in the other car. Robert Simmons down the Aeroflow lane from New South Wales. Well, thanks to Azapati Racing, dials in a 9.30, taking on Bobby J. Simmons, who's dialed in a 9.50. Well, thanks to Reed Carpenter and the Suzuki Hayabusa, both of them. Of course, we talked about juniors before. They only go to half track, which is 660 foot. We're back to our quarter-mile racing now, back to just over 400 metres. Robert Simmons in our Aeroflow lane. Bobby J. Simmons in the Rocket lane. She's going to get a 0.2 of a second handicap on this one to get things underway. 127 for Bobby Joe, 0.73 for Simmons though. Rob Simmons, husband and wife combination. Bobby J. Simmons takes the win, 9.56 at 140, and bragging rights to take home.
In other words, Rob Simmons knows what's good for him.
Yeah.
9.61.
We joke about this a lot, but I actually don't think that's the case. I think Bobby Joe's just got it.
I say that with tongue firmly planted in cheek. As we move on to the next pair, it is Christopher Hocking and Sean Ricketts. Sean Ricketts with the nice big burnout on the Kawasaki ZX-12R. 1200 cc's of power underneath the frame rails of that bike, and Christopher Hocking, the Hayabusa, over in the Aeroflow lane, dialing with a 9.49 this time around. Sean Ricketts a 9.24.
Hocking not shy about getting into full stage, already in there waiting for Ricketts to come in. Ricketts going to need to get in there very quickly. Christopher Hocking going to get away, got the handicap start here, 0.25 a second. Lights go down just a little bit. Red light there for Ricketts, hands the win over to Hocking. So Ricketts won't get the win this time. Hockney, if he can just stay in the lane, he's going to get it. Goes 9.41 with a 9 on a 9.49 dial-in, but will remain with the win due to the red light from Sean Ricketts. He broke out by 0.06 of a second on the wrong side of the green. There we go. What a race that was there. Shame about the red light there from Ricketts. Otherwise, that would have been a fantastic race side by side. Of course, it is round number 2 of the bikereview.com.au modified bike here at Sydney Dragway, all part of the Burson's Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship today. Great to see the crowd here. Don't forget your T-shirts. We are running out. We've only bought so many limited edition shirts. Get over, get your size, because I know the regular sizes like large and extra large go very, very quickly. If that's your size, get up there. If you're one of the other sizes, you'd probably be a bit luckier.
I wish I was an extra large. Dale Williams, the Yamaha R1 960 is the dial-in for him. He gets a solo pass, so he gets the chance to test that dial-in, and a 973 is the result, 139 miles per hour on the dot. On the dot. Now, I see some water going down, and I'm looking at the pictures that we've got coming through the tunnel, and I see a very large front wing, I see a dragster, and I see a very large rear wing, which suggests to me that it might be that car of Rapasada Autosport International, of course. Running 3 cars here this weekend, 2 in competition, 1 in the exhibition mode, and we are about to burn just a little bit more nitro. So coming out of sequence, just to make sure that there is no confusion. This car not running for any of the championship points this weekend, not running for any kind of accolades, but certainly looking to lay down some solid passes here in this Atlantic All-Stop Fuel
Not
car.
to say it won't be in the near future. Basically, we've got a car. We just, unfortunately, Western Australia don't like the rest of Australia at the moment.
Yeah.
And didn't want to allow our driver to come across.
And let's talk about that, because obviously this car usually campaigned by Damien Harris, who is Australian champion in his own right, very experienced driver, does reside over in WA, and it's not so much getting here that's the problem, it's the getting back part that's the issue, and unfortunately things not particularly easy to get over to WA. I know we've probably got a lot of people watching at WA at the moment, and big hello, hope you guys are enjoying things from over here while you're watching in the Republic of Western Australia.
Well, what moment we're allowed to go, we're coming. We're coming back over to Perth. We love it over there. We love the drag racing family over there, so can't wait to get back to the west.
We love going to the Perth Motorplex. We love seeing everything that's coming out of there, but at the moment, unfortunately, we just can't go over and see it in person.
So
but anyway.
So we've got a spare car.
Yeah, so what do we do with it? We put a driver in it, we send it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We just wait for one of the Rapasada drivers to come back and we say, you know what, go again.
Yeah. Yeah, and when Wayne Newby is coming out just to put a car down the racetrack, let me tell you, he's going to lick the stamp and send it. He wants to put this thing all the way down to the finish line, and I would suggest that you're going to see a very, very solid pass.
I wouldn't expect to see any half-track runs out of Wayne Newby in this car at this point, because they're not looking for that data. They're not going to maybe change things to see if they can just get the car down the track. They're going to be looking to put a representative time down. One of the things I must admit is Pete Shivers took back the record there with that 374 with a 2 7 months ago. We know how competitive the Rapasada team are. They'll be wanting to take that back at some stage. So they're looking for that data, and they'll be pushing hard because, you know, it's all a bit of bragging rights, isn't it?
Oh, 100%, and that's what it's all about. And, you know, this is probably going to help a little bit in terms of the other Rapasada cars, because they will get the data on the racetrack. They'll be able to go back. Now, all the cars, you get them as close as you can, but they're not identical. So it's not like you can just go, okay, that tune-up worked, let's pick it up and put it over into that car. It's not quite that simple. But by the same token, they'll at least get a feel for things, and at the same time, putting on a fantastic show for this awesome crowd that we've got in the house here at Sydney Dragway today.
There's nothing that compares to the sound and feel of a nitro engine running down the track when you put it in a top fuel car. If you ever get the opportunity, don't forget, if you want the opportunity to get on the start line, Hydrolink are actually giving away a competition to do that. You need to go to Hydrolink. Hang on, we'll get the details. It is joinhydrolink.com. So that is joinhydrolink.com. Scroll down, get to the competition entry and enter your details. We're giving away 3 start line experiences. Now, Rusty, you and me have been lucky enough to do this a couple of times, but it is an amazing experience when you get in the start line. You've got 11,000 horsepower either side of you. It rattles the brain. It makes you cry. There is no way to describe the experience. So joinhydrolink.com. Scroll down, enter your details, put your name in, 3 lucky people out of the crowd here at Sydney Dragway. You must be in the crowd.
Yep.
Are going to get that opportunity today.
Yeah, I can confirm. I've been doing it for a very long time, going out there on the start line, seeing nitro cars, and it is not something you ever get used to. If you think it's amazing up there in the grandstand, let me tell you, standing in between 2 of these cars, only meters away from you, it is something that it's literally a money can't buy experience.
And how good a Hydrolink. They got behind the series. They've been behind, obviously, the Reed Racing team as well, but they're looking for a franchisee, so you can be your own boss. It's another thing, if you go to that joinhydrolink.com, is you can look at what it's like to become your own boss. A number of franchises around Australia. If you're watching us on the live stream, I know franchises in Western Australia, Victoria, up in Queensland as well. So a number of franchises that they've got around the country. Get on board. Go to the website, joinhydrolink.com. And if you're here in the stands today, your opportunity to get yourself out in the start line. 3 lucky people. You know, the more people that enter, the more chance. You've got to be in it to win it, right? So just get on, whether it's your wife, your kid, whatever, enter as many times as you can, put your details in. We love what they're doing here as part of the Burson's Auto Top Fuel Championship. As Rusty leaves us on the mic here, Stuart McCarthy, you're going to rejoin us here just in time for us to fire up a Top Fuel car.
Ah, well, you get the big bangers in, I guess, don't you? Yourself?
Yeah.
Little fella Rusty's gone. So,
mate, it's not, you know, we've got to get the powerful men in.
Correct.
Short, sharp burn out there from Wayne Newby, of course, driving one of the Rapisada cars there. And like we say, not part of the championship here this weekend. Not to say it won't be later on in the championship, but without its normal driver, we have Damien Harris. We've had to revert to just using the drivers we got between the Rapisada boys. So Larry Dixon had a bit of a go at this car yesterday. Today, though, it's going to be Wayne Newby coming out in this test session.
It's always good. They're obviously going to get data and that side of things to see what this car's going to do. And I guess the good thing is with having 2 drivers, they're getting 2 different feels from those drivers as well.
Remembering this crew didn't race in 2021 at all, so knowing the amount of parts they order from the States, that like they don't just, when you bring over pistons and rods for a team like this, you don't bring them over by the box, you bring them over by the container load almost. You know, to run 3 cars, do a series, the amount of rods, pistons, any parts that break on top of that, heads, you know, wings, parts for the car, body panels. They've had this accumulation of parts here, so they've got everything they need to be able to do these test runs to get that data as well. Of course, the Rapisada team got a spare crew. They've got a crew for every car. So that's another one of the things. The crew sitting there, they need to keep going through the motions here.
So would you expect to see a full pass right now or not?
I expect it. They're going to send it, mate. They've already got data from their previous runs. I can tell you what, Santo Jr. is not going to let this one slide. The candles are lit, 2 noobs. Gets it up in smoke, though, about a quarter way down the track. You just see it stand on the tyre, the smoke comes out, and unfortunately, that's a 450 at 169. But I'm just trying to see, unfortunately, the 60-foot times just went too quick. They pressed the button on the computer, didn't get a chance to grab them, but they're looking pretty happy down there, and Santo's a bit of a smile on his face, the crew chief, so I reckon they're happy with how that launched on the 60-foot, and as he pulls the car up, just having a look up on our screen, you can see that on the live stream, turning the car around nicely. So that's the main part. It went down there. We didn't see any big explosions, but they got some data on that one, and they managed to get that up on top of the tyre, which means they're starting to overpower the track. Now they can start looking for that sweet spot. Good to see, obviously, our drift demonstrations and our freestyle kings are out. You can see them warming up the motorbikes right now. We've got our drift guys out there, of course. Adam Burgess out there in the HMAS, as well as, I believe it's Mitchell Brooks out there. So Mitchell Brooks as well, the 2 BA Falcons. You can see them, the Australian Drift Club. Anthony Billick there, ready to get the boys fired up out there on the burnout pad and do some drift demonstrations around the Witches' Hats.
You're right into your drifting too, aren't you? You've done a fair bit of announcing of drifting.
I've been down to a couple of drift meets, yeah. I might every now and then look after a drift car, maybe, just baby it, you know, give it a clean every now and then for the owner.
So you've been involved in the drifting. I certainly haven't been involved with the freestyle motocross. I'll give you the tip.
Look, it's one of those things that I look at that and I think, gee, when I was younger, it didn't worry me breaking bones, but as the years go by, it starts to stress me out a little bit. These guys do some amazing things, though. You see them there, the huge flips they do nowadays. We've got the big ramp set up for them. It's just, what always gets me about the Freestyle Kings is how short the run-up is there.
Yes. Yeah, and like I go back to the, I'm going to say early 2000s or late 90s when you looked at the likes of Seth Enslow and those guys doing what they did over in the California sand dunes and all that stuff. So it's certainly stepped up from there, but certainly again it'd be good to see the FK Freestyle Kings out there doing their thing, and as you said, the drifting guys as well.
Mate, we're here to put on a show here for the people from Sydney. If you've paid your money, you've come down to be part of what is the first ever Burson's Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship. The first round here at Sydney Dragway. We want to give you the full entertainment. We got, like you say, the Freestyle Kings, the drift demonstrations going on, of course, tonight. Fireworks, everybody loves when we put the fireworks on, but you know what really is the fireworks? It's the burnout guys. We've got like 8 burnout cars here tonight.
And big players in the burnouts
Big
too.
players, yeah. A couple of them have recently placed at Summernats in the Burnout Masters. Of course, Britt Kilby or Brad Kilby. I don't know which one it's going to be driving hammer time here tonight, but they've both been in the top 5 in the Burnout Masters in the last 2 years.
So explain, compare the guys that do the burnouts, and no way am I disrespecting anybody that does their burnouts when they come here in their car and go the thing. Explain the difference between these professional burnout guys to old mate that turns up and has a crack.
I'm not going to call them professional burnout guys. What I'm going to say is it is a judged sport, and these guys are the type of cars and drivers who have gone around the country, competed in multiple competitions, scored highly at these competitions. Some of that's give the opportunity there to get a Burnout Masters ticket. So you need to, obviously, if they've only got 3 tickets, it goes to the top 3 or something like that. They've had the opportunity then to go to Summernats and compete with what is the creme de la creme, I suppose, of that year, the best burnout drivers of the year and reliable cars. They get the opportunity to compete at Summernats, makes them part of the Burnout Masters. And some of the guys we've got here, Dom Lucci's been there a number of times, and he drag races. He's got a top 20 elite show car that he's got as well, and of course he's got a burnout car. So he's been in the Masters a number of times. We've had the Kilbys in the Masters a couple of times as well. Some other cars, Jesse Johnson's there coming out, and Killer K as well. So I suppose what puts them apart is the reliability, and and of course they're all big horsepower cars.
Ah, huge. Huge.
What we might do is we might grab a couple of words, have a bit of a party here at Sydney Dragway. We are here at the Burson's Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship. We're glad you've joined us here at Sydney Dragway. The entertainment coming your way very shortly. We'll be back on track in just a moment.
Grab your Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship limited edition sublimated t-shirts from the merchandise outlets now.
Atlantic Performance Oils are an Australian-owned and operated company specialising in the production of specialty and everyday lubricants for use in a wide variety of applications. Manufactured in our state-of-the-art facility at Ingleburn, we cater for everyday drivers in heavy transport, earth-moving and industrial applications including hydraulics and agriculture and mining. We also manufacture a wide range of grease, coolant and gear oils to suit your needs. So visit atlanticoil.com to find a distributor near you for Atlantic quality products.
Hey, fellas, do you hear that? That's passion and determination. It's time for us to listen to our fans. We'll never turn our backs on them, because that is who we are. We are the West. We are open to everyone. We are loyal. We are listening. We are passionate. We are family. We are.
Ready? How you doing, everybody? Here we have Drift Club demonstrations for the Australian Top Fuel Championships. How's everybody doing? We're going to put a mad show on for you guys today. We're going to have these hectic vibes going on. So, these guys, so we got front here, just in the Ford Falcon, XR6 turbs. Okay. Yep, hello, yep. So we have Adam Burgess in the Ford Falcon XR6 Turbo and drift car. Then we have Mitchell Brooks in LRV-powered Ford Falcon car. As you can see, we've done a constructed layout for these guys to get on door. And it's all about the chase car getting so close to the lead car and emulating what they do. So the lead car does a few laps, and then the chase car, the chase car's going to have a go at, the lead car's going to have a go at chasing as well, as you're going to see right now. They're going to swap over. Oh, really? Fuck me. Can everyone hear me? Yep, everyone can hear me? Yep. Wait, yep. Okay, yeah. So here we go. We've got Mitchell Brooks now. Mitchell Brooks in the white Falcon, V8 powered, Tickwood powered. He's going to lead Adam Burgess, blue Advan powered XR6 turbo, 320 kilowatts in that blue one. Mitchell Brooks has got about 250 kilowatts in his machine. Nice and close to the wall. Look at that, people. We're talking about. So it's controlling the car sideways. Oh, look at that. Rubs the wall for you guys. That's insane. These big boats on the burnout pad giving you guys a show. Look at that. Door-to-door action. Share the love. Give a round of applause, people. Come on. That's what we're talking about here. Still go? Yeah, okay. That's what I'm talking about. We have about 6 to 8 cars here today. So anything RB powered to V8 powered to supercharged to you'll see them a bit later on tonight. But now what they're going to do is they're going to mix it up for you guys, do a bit of freestyle. Enjoy what you see. Please show them love. So what it is drifting is, as I say, one of the fastest growing motorsports in the world. As you can see, America, obviously it started off in Japan, New Zealand, Europe, Asia. Yes, Australia. Here is much support. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Round of applause, people. Wait, no more? No more? Okay, we're going first. That's what. Thank you. Okay, so we got Mitchell Brooks coming back out for you. 2 more minutes. Going to show you what you can do on the straight control in this V8 powered Ford. The pad's pretty grippy. A lot of the cars put some rubber down. That's what I'm talking about here. We support the sport. We want to make the sport bigger in Australia, especially in New South Wales. Australian Drift Club have been doing it for about 15 years now. start off with Grassroots. Come in. Able for that car control. Mitchell Brooks has been doing about, ooh, right on the wall here. That's what we're talking about here. About, I think, say 5 to 8 years he's been drifting for. Oh, no. I think he broke. Ew! Round of applause, people. Round of applause. Ew! That's what we're talking about.
Welcome back to the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship Round 1 here at Sydney Dragway. We are about to move into some eliminations, I should say, for Go Logistics Super Street. And indeed, it is the second round of racing. I can see Nathan Gosen down there in the little Ford Capri taking on Chris Creech, I think it is.
Mr. Creech there out of the ACT, of course. Banks of Perfection Racing VZ Ute. Been running in the 10s today, 10.68 in the last round, so we'll wait and see how he goes, Mr. Creech. Sorry, 10.18 is the dial-in, taking on Nathan Gosen in a 10.02, had a bye run last time, so I have to take it to him. Creech is going to go away first over that slight handicap, 10.18 to a 10.02 dial-in. Good to see if you've joined us back on the live stream. We're back underway with the racing now. Not going to see that in the lights, are you? It's so close. A 134 for Creech, but an 0.98 for Gosen. You think he's got the advantage here in the Capri?
He gets it done. Sue, double breakout, 9.98 on a 10.02 Dial in for Nathan Gosen, gets the win a 10-1-2 on a 10-1-8. Too quick for Chris Creech, hands the win across. A margin of victory only 7 thousandths of a second in that one. Next pair up, it is Peter Villaris in the Go Logistics 69 XT Falcon, taking on Adam Bowers, the High Performance World HQ, over there in the Rocket Industries lane.
Bowers there with a 10.58 dial in to Villaris with a 10.37 in the XT Falcon. So Villaris going to have to wait just a little bit. You're barely going to see that in the lights. We're talking only 0.21 of a second will be the handicap there for Bowers. He'll get underway in the HQ first. 393 cubes, a small block Chev Goodness from Forza Performance. Just in front. Oh no, he's gone on the wrong side of the green. A little bit too early for Bowers. Will hand the win. Villaris just needs to stay in his lane as he gets down to the end. 10.37 dial. He's got an opportunity here. He can do what he likes. 10.38 with a 6 at 1.31. He's got that car dialed in now.
I love hearing that Falcon chirp the tyres every time he changes gear, Peter Villaris. Absolutely awesome. Jim Raptis up next, racing for Go Logistics in the Holden Tirana SLR, the fantastic looking yellow Tirana. He's taking on Tex Griffis down there in the Plymouth Satellite. It really is a massive car, this thing. Have a look at the size of it. 505 cubic inches of Plymouth underneath the hood, and he's dialing in with a 10.51, 11.00 for Jim Raptis.
But as it transfers the weight, what I like to see is the suspension actually lifts up in the back, and the car almost levels out, and it pushes that car down. Gets a little bit of daylight under the front wheels, normally a 10.51 dial in there for Tex Griffis in the Plymouth Satellite, taking on 11 flat for Jim Raptis, so he'll leave the line first. It's just shy of half a second the advantage, so you will see that in the lights. Just waiting for staging to come in. Griffiths needs to get that car pre-staged now. The first set of white bulbs are on, second set on. Here we go. Raptors nicely there, 0.71 to a 1.14 of Griffiths. Griffiths going to have to do some work here to drive around the big Plymouth. Cross the line first. Oh, he gets across the line first, Raptors, but he breaks out, double breakout. Tex Griffiths will go through to the next round. 10.49 with a 3 and a 10.51 to a 10.97 with a 2 on an 11 flat dial in.
I'll tell you what, I think conditions might be a little bit better than what we think they are out there, because we're seeing a hell of a lot of breakouts from these guys in the dial your own categories, which generally means they're guessing what they think they're going to run based on the weather conditions and the track conditions. But if they're going quicker, that generally means that it's probably a little bit better out there than what they think it is. Sean Smith now from Waniassa in the ACT, the HSV Club Sport, on a solo pass this time around, dialing in with a 10.31, I should say, and across the line for a 10.77 this time around. That does wrap up Go Logistics Super Street for this particular session. Next up, we will be moving into Super Sedan, and that is my cue to hand the commentary microphone over to the ever-capable Mr. Stephen Bush.
Burnouts run and done. Dave Gruber in the Strip Rat now from Gilmore in the ACT and the LJ Tirana, sponsored by Queanbeyan Engine Services and Specialised Towing. Taking on Pat Furiolo in the HQ 1-tonner, thanks to Austral Steel. 10.12 dial in there for Furiolo and a 9.3 for Gruber. Dave's going to have to wait. The Strip Rat's going to have to sit there. He's got himself about 0.8 of a second, just shy of that. It's a big time. It's basically 2 of the amber bulbs. They go down. Stephen Bush joining me back in the commentary box, and this one's going to be a good race. Nice one there from Furiolo. 0.11 on the reaction time. Gruber's got a lot to catch up with that 2.28 reaction time. I think he's probably lost it there on the lights. We'll wait and find out. The win does go to Pat Furiolo, though, with a 10.27, 126 miles an hour.
Yeah, very uncharacteristic reaction time there from Dave Gruber. Normally a lot sharper on the tree there. Next up, we're going to have Naomi Lightowler taking on Nathan Watt. Lightowler in that Pontiac Firebird, dialed in with a 9.35. Watt in the VL Commodore, dialed in with a 9.43. So not too much in this one.
Of course, Watt, sponsored by Grant's Performance, Angels Roofing Accessories and Burson All Day Pass, the VL Commodore 383 Chev, 9.43 dial in. Light Towel, thanks to BNS Waterproofing, Penrite, Scorpion Racewear, West End Performance and Craig's Automatics.
Watt into a pre-stage, as is Lightowler.
It's waiting clear of the throat there. The revs come up, lights are going down, the wheels come up there for Watt. Just gets a bit of daylight under the front. 0.39's a big advantage though.
Yeah, he's carrying about a 10th of a second towards that finish line, Matty. And he converts it to a win, 9.52 142 with the 7, 142 mile an hour to take the win. Light Hour out of competition with a 939. But you can't afford to give away a tenth of a second on the start line.
Sean Mayer dials in a 922 in the Rocket Lane in the HB Tirana, thanks to St Mary's Race Engines. The little small block Chev, it's a tiny car. The HB Tiranas, a lot of them turned into drag cars. Mark Brusher in the 1 tunnel, thanks to MB Performance, a Purge of the Nitrous. It's got that golden diamond on it, the big NO2.
That it does. It's certainly got a big set of wheels under the back of it as well.
Wheels come up too frequently on this car. It puts on a show for the crowd, but it's an 879 dial-in.
Yeah, he was our #1 qualifier here in Super Sedan. Around about 0.4 of a second. Head start going to Ma in that Holden Tirana. .038 on the tree for Sean Ma. I think he's got this one in the bag, Matty.
You'd think so. 245 for Mark Brusher. Don't think the 1-tonner can make it up. The win does go to Sean Mayer there, 929 at 139 miles an hour and a 922 dial in. An 880 there for Brusher, but unfortunately the 1-tonner, the reaction time for 245 really let him down.
Yeah, that HB Tirana, a very, very well sorted car.
Mr. Little is back. Michael Little in this LJ Tirana, thanks to M&T Little Plumbing, Forbes, Roy Lance Tractor Replacement, and St Mary's Engines. Of course, the little Tirana done so many laps here at Sydney Dragway. The LJ 935 is the dial in on a solo run. It's got the win. The wheels come up. We see a bit of daylight. 0.36, so still trying to cut that tree down.
Yeah, no, always wanting to test the reaction time. Mick Little, 935 with a 1 on a 935. Would you be disappointed that you've kind of wasted it?
On a 0.36, as a package, that is, you know, like we're talking 37 thousandths of a second package.
Yeah, very good.
When we say package, for those people who aren't really familiar, I suppose, with drag racing and all that, we talk about if you get a perfect reaction time, 000, and of course you dial in 935 and you're on a 9.350, that would be the perfect package. They're a 9.351, so we've lost a thousandth of a second, plus 36 thousandths of a second on the reaction time means we're only 37 thousandths of a second off a perfect package.
Yes, it sounds very easy, but it's not.
It's way easier to talk about it.
Yes.
It is much, much easier to talk. But don't forget, we've got all-round format here at the Burson's Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship for, of course, obviously for our Top Fuel bike, our Pro Stock, and our Pro Mod. They are all going to be back out. They haven't even started racing. We just finished off our qualifying session from yesterday. We had to have it today after a bit of weather yesterday, but they're back. Get here by 3 p.m. today if you want to come down to Sydney and experience it in real life. Don't forget the Hydrolink. And, of course, if you go to the webpage, it's joinhydrolink.com. So that is joinhydrolink.com. You want to check that out, you can get yourself an opportunity to be on the start line here today. You must be here at Sydney Dragway, though, to accept it. Scroll down into the competition. That's joinhydrolink.com. Get your details in. You could possibly be one of 3 people who win a chance to be on the start line between the top fuelers. And I believe that's going to happen about round 2, so a bit later on. So there's still time to enter. And don't forget, if you want to get your T-shirt for the event today, sizes are starting to run out.
Yeah, so you've got a little bit of work to do. Enter a competition and go get yourself a T-shirt. But the start line experience is one that everybody that gets the opportunity to do it never forgets it.
You just can't buy that experience of money.
No.
It's always seems to be something you need to win. And, of course, Hydrolink, great supporters down there of Reed Racing. And you can go down there and talk to them. Of course, be your own boss. They do have some representatives here today. And that's what it's all about. A lot of franchises still up for grabs around Australia. If you want to become a Hydrolink franchisee, go and talk to them about your opportunities. And you can also look at that at joinhydrolink.com on the webpage. If you are watching us out there, obviously on the live stream, you can look at that page and look at those franchises. Or, if you're here at Sydney Dragway, want to enter the competition, get on the start line, get an experience that money cannot buy.
Very well said, Matty. We're moving into Timmy Hot Rod Supplies, a modified Eliminator now for their second round. And we've got Jess Turner in that nitrous-fed rear engine dragster.
Yeah, nice sneaky bottle of nitrous there for Jess Turner. Oh, it's not sneaky, I suppose. It's there. It's proud to be there. 7:47, surprised at that dial in. I know it's warm here today, but still surprised a little bit seeing track conditions. Everyone's starting to do some breakouts.
Well, I'm wondering whether she's got 2 tune-ups in that car, because she went the 695 with the 4 in the first run this morning, and then in the last round she went back to a 740. So that half a second is a fair difference in the ET.
She's going to have to wait just over a second, though. Craig Baker, obviously, in the rocket lane from Victoria, all thanks to Paul Rogers Performance Trans, the rear-engine dragster. Small block Chev on board, 8:48 as the dial into a 7:47 for Jess Turner, so just 100ths more than a second. We'll have to wait on the light. Jess Turner, very experienced racer, of course, ETS Fuels on the side, and done plenty of laps at a drag strip, not only here in Sydney Dragway, but down there in Victoria, all over the country.
Oh, nothing in this one off the start line, Matty. Only 5,000ths of a second. The head start going to Craig Baker. He's out in front, and he's going to take the win. 8.50 with a 6 on an 8.48 to take the win. Jess Turner running a 7.50 with a 9, 174.
And that's come down to 18,000ths of a second over the finish line, just 18,000 a second. But this is what modified racing really excites me, is just how close they are. The reaction times are always super low, and in modified, you've got to be an 03 or less, really, to be anywhere.
Yep.
And they run so close to their dial-in time. So when we talk about the perfect package, this is the category where we see it most.
There's certainly no easy wins in modified Eliminator. It doesn't matter if you're at Sydney Dragway or any other racetrack around the country. Modified Eliminator is always a tough category to win.
Fiona Crisp now coming out in the rocket lane with a 7.80 dial-in in the dragster. Been running a heap of 780s here today already. John Vanderlyn alongside from Queensland. All thanks to Sanford Valley Realty in the Bantam Altered.
Yeah, we've got the big block Chevy on board in the Altered, 540 cubes. We're only a 434 on board in that rear engine dragster of Fiona Crisp.
Different setup though. Of course, you've got the power in the front for John Vanderlyn there and the Bantam Altered. It's in the front, keeping that front nose down. But then Fiona Crisp, the really long dragster, the rear engine mounted dragster. 780 for Crisp to a 767 for Vanderlyn. And you know that's going to be 1300ths of a second, just the difference there on the lights. You're barely going to see that though. Remember, about 0.4, there's 0.4 of a second between each amber, so you're not going to see too much difference in the amber. It's going to be very hard. The drivers will be focused purely on their side of the lights. You can see that little shield we've got, so you can't see the other side. They will be super focused right now.
There would be no other thing that they would be focusing on.
It's round 2 of racing here. We've got 4 rounds for the Sydney Conrod Supplies Modified.
0.25 to an 0.31. Again, 6,000ths of a second in the start line. The two cars locked together. Crisp in front at the 1,000, but Vanderlyn getting around her at the bottom end of the racetrack goes a 7.68 with a 9, 174 mile an hour through the finish line. And Crisp in that dragster, a 7.81 with an 8 at 170.
Gotta love modified racing. 53 10,000ths of a second over the line. So that's 0.0053 was a difference in time between both cars breaking the finish line beams.
Yeah,
nothing. Absolutely nothing.
They wouldn't have known. They wouldn't have known who won that, I don't think.
No, it's going to take a computer to figure that out. The human eye is not going to pick up 53 10,000ths of a second. Next up, CJ Davies in the Aeroflow lane. All thanks to Shane's Race Engines in the dragster. 826 dial-in taking on Shane Wind in the Get 'em Performance USA Fitzer dragster, the longer dragster there.
Yeah, Wind up from Victoria. Big block Chevy on board for him, 565 cubes. Small block on board the front engine dragster of Davies. Just waiting on Davies to bump into full stage. Sorry, Matty. Tree cuts down and a 069 to a 006 for Wind. The rear engine dragster crowd side has the advantage and is going to convert it to a win. 775 with a 1, 159 miles an hour through the finish line, and he's moving on to the next round. CJ Davies at 826 with a 2.
Well, I'm going to jump off here as we head over to bikes, and we're going to get Stu back on the mic.
No worries, Matty. Thank you very much for your services. You'll be back for Top Fuel and all the pro categories here this weekend. On track now, we've got Adriana McCaskill in the rear engine dragster running for Pro Street Towing, Race Comp Motorsport, Mark 1 Welding. Our number 2 qualifier with a 721. Welcome back to the microphone, Stu McCarthy.
Bushy, good to be back, brother. Could not ask for a better afternoon right now.
Yep, certainly the sun's out. The track will be getting nice and warm.
It is. I must admit, I was out there earlier in the sun. It is quite warm out there in the sun. So for the punters that are here, make sure you keep refreshed, hydrated.
Yep. The old slip, slop, slap, of course. 009 on the tree for McCaskill. Nice leave for her. She makes her way to the finish line. Shoots out right on the finish line. 7:22 with a 7. Backs up her 7:20 dial in. She's moving on to the next round. That car very happy to be around the 7:2 mark. Looks like we're moving into extreme bikes, Stu.
The Daredevils.
Yep.
Anybody that gets on a bike on a drag strip, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't matter whether it's one of these or a Top Fuel or any of the others, they're all Daredevils, in my opinion.
Very much so. These guys are running 200 plus mile an hour on a very small tyre, no wheelie bar. They just use a little bit of boost control to get the power down, and one of the quickest extreme bikes in the country is in the rocket lane, and that is Leonard Azzopardi. This time around he's racing Darren Foley in the Aeroflow lane. Here goes Azzopardi through the finish line, 7:22 with a 2, 208 miles an hour there. 7:22 with a 2, 208 mile an hour. We have seen Leonard run into the 680s, I believe. So similar mile an hour, but the ET just not coming to him this time around. Maybe trying a little bit different, something a little bit different in his combination here this weekend. Next up, we've got Jeff Gradden running for a Sigra rolling stock componentry. And Jeff's taking on Diana Azzopardi this time around. Diana on the Suzuki GSX R1000. Now, Gradden, no stranger to speed. We also see him in a door slammer as well. This bike, a nitrous-fed Hayabusa. Just having some issues off the start line there. Diane out in front, and she'll take the win. 9:43 with a 3. Still 145 mile an hour. Gradden a 9:64 at 1:57.
Great crowd just rolling into the venue. What time are we? 2:15 here in Sydney. Heard Rusty and Matty, not sure if they know for a fact or not whether there is people tuned in from overseas or not, but on the live streams. But if they are, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are.
Covered all the bases there, Stu.
Correct.
On track now, we've got our number 1 qualifier in extreme bike, and that is Alex Borg, running for Turbo Smart. Force Hydraulics, Azzopardi Racing, Rams Head Services. He qualified number 1 with the 7:04, 210 miles an hour. That's over 330 kilometres an hour.
Ridiculous.
See Alex hunching right over that fuel tank on that bike. Squats in the rear, then tries to power wheel stand. Straight down the centre of the lane though. 7:07 with a 7, 208. Nearly 209 mile an hour out of that turbocharged Hayabusa.
Yeah, had that right foot pretty much out to the side the whole way down on the pass, just balancing out that bike.
He certainly calmed that bike down off the start line. It used to always try and throw him right off it. All right, looks like we're moving into Super Gas Eliminator, Stu. It's their first round of eliminations. Here today we've got Vince Panetta taking on Roy Romeo. Super Gas is a heads-up category where everybody runs to a 990 fixed index. So you want to get to the finish line as close to as a 990 as possible.
So you don't want to be a 9.89.
Well, you could potentially still win the race if the other competitor goes under by 4. So it's a little bit of a mix between Group 2 style index racing and both races are very, very close. 990 5 with the 5 for Vince Panetta will take it to a 9.46. I think the difference there was in the reaction time for Panetta to take the win. This is where reaction times are so critical because races can be won and lost on how the driver reacts to that Christmas tree.
All about that start line.
Yep. And of course, with a pro tree that we see in Supergas, you've only got 0.4 of a second to react. The 2 cars on the start lines, Joe Catanzariti in the Pontiac Firebird and Colin Griffin in the Toyota Celica. 009 to an 012. There's 3,000s in it. Catanzariti had the better reaction time off the start line. Runs on through for a 9.89 with a 6. Beats Colin Griffin, who got there first with a 9.86, I think it was. So yes. 3,000ths of a second difference.
That's good close racing right there.
Very much so. I mean, Supergas, another one of those races where the majority of them are decided by very, very small margins. Next up, we've got Tony Polito in the Ford Probe, running for Motorsport Parts and Services, Coinco. Polito's Automotive Services.
Love the look of this little Ford Cortina down here in the Rocket Industries lane.
Would you believe this car was finished back in 1995 in a very similar livery? It's been just one of those timeless paint jobs on this little Cortina.
Which is cool though.
Yeah.
It's been kept that.
Yeah, little 302 Windsor on board.
Same owner or different owner these days?
Same owner.
Wow, that's cool.
John built the car. That's your good friend. I've got a little Mark 1 Cortina as well, so there was always that connection there. Nice was up launch from both cars. They'd be eyeballing each other, I reckon, because Polito, I'm pretty sure, runs a manual gearbox in this car as well. So no delay, no throttle stops or anything like that. And Polito will take the win 9.94 with a 0.145. So he was 40,000ths of a second away from that 9.90. Summerance there a 10.03 with a 9.130 mile an hour. Just, there was not much in the reaction times, only 6,000ths of a second, but Polito just that little bit closer to the 990 ET that he's looking for. I think that concludes that round of Supergas Eliminator, Stewart.
Just while we've got this slight break in action on the track, we're just going to play some ads, pay some bills, and we'll be back with you very, very shortly here for round number 1 of the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship here at Sydney Dragway.
I really enjoy my job. You get to work on big machines. It's a great career choice.
Test 1, 2.
I'll send these 2 boys over there and then we'll just say, oh, he's not allowed. All right, Sydney Motorsports Park, are you guys ready for the Freestyle Kings? Let's make some noise. That's it. We got 3 of the top riders, not only in Australia, but from around the world, ready to go big for you guys. This is a huge gap, 75 foot across, and these guys are going to be launching motorbikes and getting upside down for you. So, Sydney, let's hear it. Make some noise for the Freestyle Kings. Yeah. All right, we're going to introduce these riders to you one at a time. Huge flip there from Pat Bowden, but first rider hitting the jump. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Callum Shaw. Incredible stuff. And our next rider, rider number 2, Ryan Brown. And third rider, straight back from the U.S., let's hear it for Pat Bowden. All right, you've introduced the crew. These guys are ready. They got coming at you right now, Callum Shaw. Huge double grab, extending straight off the back of the bike. Next up, Ryan Brown, ready to hit the gap. Let's see what he's got. Yeah. Big ol' Indy off the back seat, and Pat Bowden rounding it out. Check it. What? Whipping it huge. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for the Freestyle Kings. Make some noise. All right, that's what we like to hear. That's it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Freestyle Kings, if you guys get any good footage, we want to see it at Freestyle Kings on Instagram. Tag them. They'll share it on their stories. Incredible stuff. Ryan Brown holding on tight to those handlebars. Here comes our next rider, Pat Bowden. What? Are you kidding me? Letting go of that bike and flying 75 feet across. Callum Shaw whipping it out as well. Sydney, make some noise. Let's go. Yeah. All right, these guys are going to keep it coming. Ryan Brown getting upside down with the first backflip here in the show. Great to see these guys really starting to step things up. Here comes Pat Bowden. Let's see what he's going to throw down. What? Are you kidding me? Huge, a cliffhanger backflip. Callum Shaw throwing it upside down as well, too. Sydney Motorsports Park. These guys are pumped up. You guys are making great noise. Let's keep the energy going. Put your hands together and let's hear it for Ryan Brown. What's Indy flip straight? Incredible stuff here. All right, Pat Bowden coming in next. Let's see what he's got. 360 flip, incredible from Pat Bowden, and here comes Callum Shaw. Heel clicker flip. Let's hear it, Sydney Motorsports Park. Make some noise for the Freestyle Kings. All right. Also, check out Freestyle Kings live, putting on a big show in Terrigal in a couple of weeks' time. So if you guys are up there on the Central Coast or want to come see some incredible riding from the entire Freestyle Kings team, come and check it out. FK Live. All of the announcements are up on social media as well. You can find them on Instagram and Facebook at Freestyle Kings. All right, back to the riding. Ryan Brown, let's see what he's throwing down. Huge flip on the last one. Wow, huge flip again and getting it done. Next rider is going to be Pat Bowden. Get ready, ladies and gentlemen. You do not know what this guy is going to do next. Let's see it. Big double grab over the 75-foot gap, and Callum Shaw backing him up right off the kicker. Here we go. Yeah, nice super whip there from Callum Shaw. Incredible riding from these guys. Absolutely at the top of their game, letting go of the handlebars and saying, let's do this. All right, Pat Bowden coming in next. Wow, can flip there from Pat Bowden, full extension. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for the Freestyle Kings. Make some noise for these boys. We're going to have a quick chat to them absolute warriors on these motorcycles. We're super excited to be here and be part of this show. What an incredible race venue here. And this is the Freestyle Kings. I'll tell you what, let's have a chat to a few of the guys and see what's happening. Ryan Brown, it must be awesome to be back in front of a crowd.
Yeah, I love cars, so it's awesome to be here riding in front of you guys. Not really an ideal setup for us, but we're making the most of it, doing what we can, so I hope you guys enjoyed the show.
Let's hear for Ryan Brown and from Callum Shaw. Callum, what's it feel like to be back in front of a crowd riding? I'm sure everybody's excited to see the action.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. It's good to leave the state and come down here and be able to ride again. It's a perfect event to be coming back to, so yeah, it's going to be a good day.
Awesome stuff. And Pat Bowden, you've just returned from the U.S., jumping over a helicopter, no less. Incredible stuff. Why don't you tell the fans a little bit about your trip overseas and how great it is to be back in Australia?
Yeah, I literally just got back. I escaped the country for 6 months. Obviously, there's been no events over here, so I went over to America and sort of put on my own stunts, jumped a helicopter, jumped over a U-Haul truck, and seems like stuff's opening back up here, so yeah. It's good to be back at the first event, throwing down, and hope you guys are having a good day.
Amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for the Freestyle Kings. You guys want to see some more riding? Let's go. We're ready to throw down a train for you guys. That means there is zero room for error. These guys are going to be following each other one at a time, one right after each other. Full trust in each other's riding ability and full trust in commitment. These guys are going to send it real big, real soon. Oh yeah, who doesn't love the smell of burning rubber? Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna get these engines started again and get a train going. These guys are gonna go one after each other. Full trust in each other's riding ability and full commitment on the ramp. Check it out, here we go. Callum Shaw, Ryan Brown, and Pat Bowden. Wow, 1, 2, 3 combo there for you. They're going to come back at you one more time to throw down. What do you think, Sydney? Let's make some noise one more time for the Freestyle Kings. Oh, yeah. Check this out. You're going to want to get your camera to get the recording going. This is going to be incredible. Here they come, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, Callum Shaw, Ryan Brown, and Pat Bowden. Yeah, we're going to be back at you with shows all day long here today, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoy the racing. Thank you very much. We'd just like to say, you're going to be awesome. What?
For everybody watching us on the live stream from the Sydney Dragway YouTube, we will be ending the stream very, very shortly. Head over to 7 Plus to watch all the action here this afternoon. Of course, we will be heading over to 7 Plus very, very shortly. So if the stream does drop out, we are run and done for the Sydney YouTube stream. For all of our viewers out there watching, head over to 7 Plus for all the action of the Burson's Auto Pass Top Fuel Championship later today.